You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft and people who play it. Today is November 15th, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing on this Saturday evening? Or Friday evening. It's Friday evening. My brain is melted.
Oh, man. Yeah, that about sums it up,
Yep.
I think, for me, too. It's been, today has just been a complete and utter whirlwind. I have had so much stuff going on this week. Not even just Warcraft stuff. There's a lot of Warcraft to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's been in the midst of all this other stuff that I feel like you and I both have like wildly different things going on, but there's all kinds of stuff happening.
Yes.
But whatever, we figured it out. We're here. We got, we're ready to go, and we got a lot to dive into because obviously it was a big week for news. When we last spoke, it was a couple days before the direct was going to happen. The direct has since happened, and I feel like for the most part, we got a lot of what I think we thought we were going to get. Certainly on the like retail WoW, the War Within side. Maybe some of the theming or the like specifics, maybe not exactly what you'd think we'd be diving straight into in the next patch, but in terms of kind of laying out, okay, here's what's coming. This is what to expect. This is what they're cooking up for us to play. I don't think it was anything that was too shocking for most of it, and we'll get into specifics obviously later in the show.
Yeah.
But I think that's what, as like the everyday players, the weekly players, that's what we wanted to see from this. Like, okay, where are we going, and what's the overall outlook, shaping up like for this full year of War Within. So that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing on my list was just wanting a roadmap, and we were 100% getting that. So I was not disappointed because that was like the one thing that I was looking for. But yeah, before we dive into what happened and what's going on and all that sort of stuff, housekeeping stuff. The reason why we are recording on Friday is because I am traveling all of next week and won't be back until Monday evening of the following week, which means that that week's record will also be a little weird time-wise because we'll fit that in probably in an evening that week to get that record out. So this record is probably going out tomorrow, Saturday, which is why I said Saturday at the top of the show, because my brain's very much focused on that. And then there'll be nothing that comes out on Monday or Tuesday next week. And then obviously the week after that, there'll be nothing on that Monday, maybe something Tuesday, maybe something Wednesday. We'll figure that out as to what that one looks like for that release. So just all that stuff front of the show so people get a chance to hear it before we get into the World of Warcraft stuff. And for those who are curious what I'm doing, I am flying to California to visit a bunch of friends, doing a bit of a Friendsgiving. I'll be with, Josh and other folks down there who I know, and I know he'll be streaming a bunch, and I'll be co-streaming a bunch. So if you're looking to find me, I'll be over on the twitch.tv/Devilore stream chunk for a bunch of my vacation during that period of time, just visiting folks and eating food and having fun. So if you're trying to find me, that's where I'll be. But yes, this Warcraft Direct did not just have World of Warcraft news. We figured we'd squeeze a little bit of talk of the other announcements that took place here at the top of the show before we dive into the actual news that Warcraft Direct dropped for World of Warcraft. So we did see the Warcraft Battle Chest basically updated. They went in and remastered Warcraft 1, remastered Warcraft 2, and put out a patch for Warcraft 3 Reforged to resolve the broken things that were going on with that. That's how they depicted it. They basically said, we don't like to leave things broken, so hey, we're doing 2.0. And you're like, okay.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the way they presented it, actually, I really appreciated. Also, we kind of publicly learned, I guess, that there is a dedicated Warcraft RTS team active at Blizzard right now, which I was not aware of prior to Wednesday, so that's exciting. Maybe Warcraft 4 might live someday. I kind of had mused publicly months ago before anything started popping up like, hey, what if Microsoft lets them fix Warcraft 3?
Yep.
Microsoft has had, they have a lot of entries in the RTS space, and it seems like Phil Spencer, who's in charge of Xbox, is an RTS fan. We've seen them have really some nice success with like Age of Empires remasters and stuff, and Age of Mythology came out recently. So, it was just something that crossed my mind. And then a whole bunch of stuff started happening, and so that 2.0 patch that ended up on, briefly on PTR before they put it back internal, that was real. And it's the biggest update to Warcraft 3 in a long time. And I think from what I'm gathering, from what little that I pay attention to around the Warcraft 3 community, there is still an active one.
There is. Yep.
People are pretty happy with it. The biggest thing is that they put in classic HD assets, is what they're calling them.
Yeah.
So they're low poly. They look like the original Warcraft 3 models, but they are, spruced up to look better on modern displays. It all works inside the Battle.net launcher. It's very clean. And I think that's the way to play it. I mean, I jumped right in. The patch went up like as they were kind of rolling out the announcement. And if you listen to the show for a long time, Warcraft 3 is a game that I love. And it's probably the reason why you and I are having this conversation right now. Without it, I don't think I would ever really got into the franchise.
Right.
And so, it's been busted for like 4 years because Reforged overwrote the old game, which is gone. And there was no way to have it back entirely. So they put, they've restored a lot of the features that for some reason they had to break when they put Reforged in. I think the classic HD look is great. They also cleaned up some of the terrain and lighting graphics for the Reforged models. So if you want to use those, you can, and it looks a bit sharper and it reads a bit better. The really cool thing is you can kind of mix and match which assets you want to use. So if you want to use the new models with the classic portraits or whatever, like you can do that. And that's a really cool feature. And, they're cleaning up all the stuff that was broken with like ranked play and all the online stuff, which is not really kind of where I exist in the game, but that was a big problem. So I think it was great. And the way they framed it was pretty great too. Just sort of saying like, hey, listen, we know this was bad. And we wanted to make it right, and I think knowing that there's a dedicated team for it, you got to think that more improvements will be coming and that they'll continue to, do stuff to make the game better, modernize it further, which it deserves. I mean, it's one of the best games ever. And it's the game that I don't think WoW would be possible without what Warcraft 3 built. So it's a huge entry in the series, and it deserves to be preserved for posterity. I think this is a huge step for that, and I'm very happy with it. I think the promise of like a completely redone, modern AAA budgeted Warcraft 3 with like beautiful new assets and like all redone cinematics, it's not realistic. It's a remake of a 20-year-old RTS game. RTSs are not in vogue. Nobody's going to pay a premium price for a game like that, even a remaster of one of the best games ever made, right? So I think really the way to go is the classic HD look. And, it's a shame that kind of dream of a 2020s Warcraft 3 probably will never live, but having a nice looking, easy to use, streamlined, updated client for the game to run in is great. So I'm really happy with that. The Warcraft 2 remaster got a little spoiled in advance because something hit a shop, or some shop assets hit a CDN somewhere or something. So that got a little spoiled, but it was true. The stuff that ended up leaked was really the actual assets. I didn't think they were going to do like I wouldn't have expected them to do 2, and I really didn't expect them to do 1. I think it's great that they did it. The way it came out, I've seen some people make fun of it, saying it looks like a Zynga game or something, some kind of Facebook thing or something, because it's just got this sheen. It's like this really limited kind of color palette. It's a tough line to walk, right? Because these games are really old, and the assets are really simple. Yeah, so,
and it's one of those things to me of I think what captures it the best is actually when you look up the Warcraft 1 remastered on the shop. Same thing with Warcraft 2. They actually have a little video / GIF that'll play, and it shows you the OG graphics then up-resed to the new experience. And one of the things that you notice is all the colors stay the same, all the palettes stay the same, nothing updates that's, not supposed to update. Does it look like an old school Facebook game? Well, sure, because that's what Facebook was working with back then, was simple color palettes, not a lot of dynamic colors, and not a lot of like, oh, we'll make this look dirty and we'll make this look, it was no, we're going to just draw the simple assets that we can draw and go from there. But the biggest thing that I don't know if everyone's eyes would pick up on immediately is you go from that 4x3 to 16x9, which is the thing that like, it broke my brain when Diablo did that with the Diablo 2 expansion back in the day. You were playing Diablo 2, and then they released the expansion for it, and the expansion came with 800 by 600 as opposed to 640 by 480. And it was the weirdest experience to be like, okay, for the first time ever, you're seeing Diablo in, it fills your screen. It's no longer a square box, right? And
there's stuff over there.
Exactly, right?
I can see the stuff that's there.
Yeah, and it's a very similar thing that happens with both the Warcraft 1 Remastered and Warcraft 2 Remastered, is all of a sudden you go from that square screen that everyone had their square monitor back in the day to suddenly that 16x9 that fleshes out the sides and lets you see more of it and modernizes it, brings it into the modern sort of gaming aspect as far as that goes. So I think that to me is one of the nice nods that you sort of get that feeling of like, oh, this is actually a really exciting thing, gets you pumped for it, is watching those GIFs of those scenes changing and showing you the difference between the two of them. And I enjoyed that they did that not only in the little launch trailer that they showed, but also on the shop so people can go in and click and look. And now it does look like you need to buy these, which feels really weird.
Yes.
I think that's
it's a purchase. Yes.
It's a strange thing to me as someone who literally has the disc sitting behind me for Warcraft 1 to not be like, can't I just like take this and then you just give me that? Isn't that possible? Like a thing?
Put the CD key in the BNet. Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Like, no. So
it is a separate product. Yeah.
It's a weird thing to me for that. And Warcraft 1 cost $14 or something, and Warcraft 2 cost $20 to be able to get those things Canadian. I'm speaking Canadian prices. So it's probably $9.99 and $15 or something like that is what they probably are. But to me, it's just one of those cases of like, that felt strange. I feel like this is something you could have done and then just thrown in for players to go back and experience and enjoy. But I also understand that they probably put a lot of work into this, so they want to get some sort of reward out of it. I don't know. It feels strange. It feels strange to have that be a thing, but it is what it is. So you can buy the actual battle chest if you want to, which comes with Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, and Warcraft 3 with the new models and versions and everything like that. And as well as, I think it comes with a pet or something for WoW that's rolled into this as well. You get a meat wagon.
It's get the meat wagon mount, which is awesome. That was the original like pre-order bonus for War 3 Reforged like 5 years ago. So that is back. I guess if you didn't get it then, or if you had like refunded Reforged or whatever. And there's like bundles and discounts and stuff if you own Reforged.
Yeah, and that pack is, I assume, $45 US because it's 53 something Canadian.
Something like that.
And so that actually is a savings for folks who are looking at picking this stuff up who didn't already own Warcraft Reforged. If you're looking to get all three of these, you actually are saving some money buying the bundle because they're selling Warcraft 3 Reforged for $40 Canadian right now. Yes, definitely a large savings if you choose to buy the bundle, if that's something you're looking to do. So yeah, I think overall a lot of passion, a lot of love went into this stuff. I don't want to dwell on it for too long. We're already 15 minutes into the episode. So, but I think overall good to see them doing it. And I'm excited to see, as you said, what that RTS team starts working on next, if that's what they just finished working on.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I'm glad these have kind of a new life, and a home on the BNet launcher. Yeah, I think it was a tough line to walk with doing the updated visuals for 1 and 2 because you want the game to read to players who are used to playing it, and you want it to play like it played. And, a lot of that in an RTS is like what the units look like. So you can't. And this was a mistake they made with Reforged, right? They made the environments look too different. They made the units look too different. And also I think the units are so simplistic in those games compared to StarCraft, which got such a beautiful and kind of universally beloved remaster a few years back. But StarCraft was like a pretty decent graphical jump, from Warcraft 2 even. So
yeah,
it's a tough line. It's like you want to make it modern, but you don't want to change the original too much. And, I'm just glad that it's there. I'm looking forward to playing through the campaigns again. I would usually play through Warcraft 3 campaign like once a year or maybe every other year. And I haven't done that since Reforged came out. It was just such a mess. and it felt weird to just launch the thing. So I haven't played it in years. So I'm excited to get back in there and play it. And I'm pretty happy with the classic 2D, the classic HD look. I think that's really all they had to do, back when. Is just put it in the BNet launcher, just update the client to work better with modern PCs, and just polish up those old textures.
Yeah. As far as Hearthstone goes, I'll just go through this quick because not everyone listens to this and wants to talk Hearthstone stuff. Heroes of StarCraft is going to be a thing. Apparently, they're bringing in Zerg, Protoss, and Terran, assigning particular classes to those allegiances, and you basically will have a mini set that comes out that puts in a bunch of StarCraft units, and you can play around with a bunch of StarCraft units. That's going to come out in January. So if that's something you're looking to do in your Warcraft, mix it in that StarCraft, then they're doing that. That's going to be a thing. They have an arena update coming in. They also have the preview of the upcoming year, which is sort of what we expected from all of these titles, is what's coming up next. And so we know they're doing Emerald Dream into Shrouded City into Heroes of Time. And so we'll see what they choose to do with those patches for the Hearthstone fans out there. But overall, obviously not the focus of the show, but I think it's curious to throw StarCraft stuff into a Warcraft product and be like, all right, here we go. It's StarCraft now.
You know what? I think it's cool. I think at one point in time I would have been a little bit leery of something like this, but at this point, like, first of all, StarCraft has been gone for years now. There hasn't been any new StarCraft anything in forever. Here's the Storm doesn't get updates anymore. And, StarCraft 2 doesn't get updates anymore.
No, they did a patch for StarCraft 2 like 3 months ago.
Well, yeah, they do balance patches, but they don't get new content. There's nothing new.
There's no content patches that take place.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing new to play. Pay attention to it.
They do multiplayer balancing, but there's no new stuff to go play. And there's been no new games or anything. I mean, it's coming up on 10 years that Legacy of the Void came out, this time next year. So, that's one thing. And then we're also in a Hearthstone set that's themed around the Great Dark Beyond. So you got all these Draenei spaceships and Legion spaceships and stuff. So I think it was kind of a cool time to drop it in, because it kind of fits the current theme. Like it's as close as you're going to get. Plus, once upon a time, I would have said like 8 years ago, I would have said, don't do it. You have so much Warcraft stuff to explore, right? Why bother bringing in other Blizzard universes into these sets when there's so much stuff you haven't touched? But now we're getting to the point where we're doing direct sequels to, old Hearthstone expansions, including this year's going to have an Ungoro Crater, sequel. So if we're revisiting concepts like that, why not throw StarCraft in? The big update that they were kind of teasing ends up being arena stuff, which is cool for people that like that sort of limited format. And arena's been this weird sort of forgotten part of the game for so long. It just has gotten so few changes in a decade, but it's not really how I like to play. I'm a regular Hearthstone player. I play at least every week. It's cool. I'll check this stuff out. I'll play it. I'll play with the cards, but there was really nothing about it that made me go, oh man, that's so cool. I can't wait till that's in the game. It's just, another year of Hearthstone. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah. As far as Warcraft Rumble goes, the last little title we'll talk about before we actually dive into the World of Warcraft stuff of what's going on this week, and then obviously follow up with the announcements that took place with World of Warcraft. They are obviously celebrating 1 year of Rumble being out. We are getting a desktop client, so you can put your emulators away, because you can just actually play through your Battle.net launcher now. And I think the way they queued that up was nice. They teed that up was nice, of queuing up for looking for group and recognizing it's going to take a while, so then just popping open your Rumble to goof around and rumble for a bit while that's taking place. That
was great. Yeah,
that was a great moment. So
what a selling point! Like, it really is. Yeah. I love that little teaser for the PC version.
Yeah.
I'm an everyday Rumble player. I play Rumble multiple times a day, every day. I just have so much fun with it. It's kind of replaced Hearthstone in a way as my sort of go-to second game or second screen game or whatever. No huge updates, and we know it's been kind of a turbulent first year for Rumble. It really hasn't found an audience, and they ended up, letting a bunch of the team go. Nothing to say about new content. There is a lot of content in Rumble, but, you always kind of need new stuff to keep your regular players engaged. But they're doing some really cool stuff with leaders. They're having like leaders that split families. So they updated Sylvanas to be undead and horde, which then opens up all kinds of different build options for how you sort of build your Sylvanas armies, and also it means you get like multiple opportunities to get credit for using Sylvanas in different modes because she's a horde and an undead hero, which is really cool. And they announced like Malfurion's coming in, and he's going to be Alliance and Cenarion. Orgrim Doomhammer's coming in for Horde and Blackrock, and a Nubarak, Undead and Beast. That seems like it's going to be really fun to play. So, 3 new leaders is huge. Like, the leaders really determine your kind of play style and your army comp. So getting a bunch of new leaders with really flexible builds should be super fun. And, the thing that I think of is like, man, why didn't they just launch simultaneously on PC last year? I feel like they just they handicapped the game by not putting it in front of their core audience from day one, Like, I know that the whole, you guys have phones is a meme and all that, but like there is really truth to their core audience is the PC gamer, and you have this launcher, this app that you want your customers to like live in and play all the games inside of, and Rumble just kind of missed the boat for PC. It's like even like when Hearthstone came out way back when, right? It was a couple months until they got the mobile client out. It was maybe 8-9 months. It wasn't a whole year. And then Hearthstone like exploded on mobile. This is like the inverse of that. The mobile market is so crowded, and Rumble is coming in way behind the Clash of Clans type games and stuff that it sort of lives in the space of. So it's going to be hard to find an audience just out in that broad mobile market. But you have a lot of Warcraft players already in BattleNet and on the launcher. So I don't really understand the business decision to go mobile only at launch and then launch on PC over a year later. But I'm excited. I mean, yeah, I've been using an Android emulator for months to play on desktop, and the gameplay is great on desktop. It's super fun to play with a mouse. So I'm excited. I hope people give it another chance. And I think having that PC client is going to be huge for that core Warcraft audience to maybe be willing to give it another look, just hop in there and start collecting some stuff and messing around with the campaign. Because I really like the game, and I want to see it find an audience, and I want to see new content for it. So hopefully people check it out and dig it.
Yeah. As far as Rumble goes for me, I'm not a massive Rumble player. I played it a bunch at launch, and I just don't play mobile games that often. There's just there was one mobile game I got into pretty heavily for one period of time, and then just fell out of it when it made sense to fall out of it, and I've never gone back to mobile games. So that was just one of those things. But yeah, let's shift into what we did this past week in World of Warcraft, because then we can talk that. We can hop into what's going on this week, and we'll talk about the Warcraft Direct stuff after that. So yeah, the past week for me in WoW obviously was raiding still. We got several sub 4% wipes or whatever on Princess, so we're like right there to actually knock her over. But it was rough, and it's one of those fights again where, hey, everyone's doing well. Oh, this person messed up. Okay, that's a wipe. Hey, everyone's doing well. Oh, that person messed up. Oh, that's a wipe. Okay, everyone's doing well. Hey, that person who hasn't made a mistake all night is now starting to make mistakes because they've had a perfect night so far. So now it's their turn. And you just sort of, rotate through that until finally you're like, well, we've had a lot of really close pulls. And so obviously it dies this week. We have the raid buff that comes in. We were out of DPS last week. That's one of our top DPS. It's an enhancement shaman because enhancement shamans are broken. They still are broken. I don't know how Blizzard hasn't fixed them being broken. They do 30% more damage than the lowest damage in the group. They do 10% more damage than the second highest damage in the group. It makes no sense. They just haven't fixed them. I don't get it. But anyways, so yeah, our enhancement shaman will be back this week. So I imagine they will knock the crap out of the boss, and it'll fall over, and that'll be fine. And they'll go to work on court. And court I won't be in for because obviously I'm traveling next week on Saturday, Sunday. Sorry, on Sunday, Monday, which is our raid days. So I won't be around for those raid days. So I just was straight up with the raid leaders like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. Might have actually been before the raid even came out. That I was like, I'm traveling on these days, so I will not be here these days, which meant that the whole plan leading up to that boss was like, well, if you're not going to be here for the bulk of Prague, we're not going to have you in and then have you not here for 2 days in the middle of that boss. So I know I'm in for Queen. I would not see me ever not being in for Queen. So I'll be in for that, and I'll be doing Prague on that. But I imagine court I will miss, which, It's a boss that I think I would do well on because it's very mechanically heavy and it's not really a DPS check. But it is one of those bosses that I'm also kind of okay to like cheer the team on from the sidelines if I need to, and give me something to watch as I'm traveling around on Monday. So that'll be nice to do. So yeah.
Raid for us, like we're starting to. First of all, we're moving into kind of a rough time of year, right? As the holiday season is bearing down on us. And I have this sort of confluence of a bunch of different people out for different reasons. So I was missing some kind of key players this week. And my attendance is still pretty healthy, but it is starting to dwindle a little bit. But then that also means I'm kind of grabbing some people who maybe I wouldn't really bring for stuff otherwise. I don't know, just like trials or friends of friends or somebody who is, maybe not one of just like a heroic raid performer basically. But even at that, heroic reclear was just so fast. I think we were done in an hour and a half. The zone buff with some, our most dedicated people topping 630 item level at this point. I mean, we're just blasting bosses down in 2.5, 3 minutes. I think we killed Ansarek in 1 or 2 pulls with at least 1 or 2 people who had never even like seen the fight on heroic before. So it feels good. Maybe it might even be too much. It's like I can't imagine. The buff tops out around like 18% or something. I mean, we've only gotten 3 stacks of it. Like, what's going to happen by the end of the season? I don't know. So we ended up calling raid by like 9 o'clock or something. It was pretty early. Normally we raid till 9:30 on Tuesdays, and we just called it because it was like, well, Queen's dead. Doesn't seem like the play to reform the group for Mythic and then do Olgrax. So we'll just call it. And this was with my regular co-tank. He was out for most of the night. So I was tanking all these bosses with one of our healer mains. So we're like short a healer main, and my co-tank hasn't tanked any of this stuff on heroic before, and it's all just falling over anyway.
Right.
And so we came back Wednesday. Reclears were pretty good. Had some new people in, so there's like Olgrax is pretty easy, and we ended up even doing it sloppy and having a bunch of dead people and still killed it anyway. Second boss takes a little bit more learning, and third boss is even more than that. So, there's a couple wipes here and there as a few of the people who hadn't done it before sort of found their groove, but the reclears were fine. We had some time, like maybe 45 minutes or something, to look at Rashanan. We didn't get anywhere really so far this week, but again, I had a weird group. I had no warlocks, which is not great for Rashanan because you want those portals to move far and fast. I only had 1 shaman too. Normally I have like 3 shamans, so you can just put Windrush totems like all the way down the lane. But
right.
I took the people that I had, and I was happy to have them, but I couldn't be real picky about like, all right, how are we going to stack the comp? So hoping Sunday we can put together something that's a little more deliberate, because we still have 2 hours for the week to look at Rashanan. So I mean, there were signs that like we were moving in the right direction on the fight. Like mechanics go out, the circles go around players, and I see 4 people start moving in the direction that we want them to move without any kind of real prompting, So once you start getting into that, I feel like that's like the first step towards getting farther and farther into the fight. So, looking forward to Sunday, picking it up there. And really like Rashanan is kind of the end of my prog goals. If we get that boss down, I'll feel like this tier was a success. So, I think we're getting there. We just need polls. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I totally get that, and that's sort of where we were at. We just need polls and need more people to see it, and need people to have a good poll, and that's really a lot of it. And as you said, as people start to learn the dance and are like pre-moving because they know what's happening, that is always a very good sign, because you're like, all right, at least these people have got that part figured out. That's good. All right, we're happy with that. So good to see that. As far as Mythic Plus goes for me, I am 5 keys in to my week. This week has been pretty smooth. There hasn't been anything that stood out to me with the affix that really bothered me or anything like that. I will say that this still feels like a very underwhelming affix. Yes, the haste is nice, and I notice the haste. The movement speed is like, I don't really massively notice the movement speed as a ranged DPS all that much, but I just in general think that this could feel more powerful in some way. I think if it was haste plus 5% crit or something, that might feel really cool to sort of be like, oh, not only am I casting faster, but all my damage has that higher chance to be amped in some way, or, you know, even 20% haste and 3% damage might feel a lot neater. Like just something to sort of make it have a punch, because I don't feel the haste makes it feel like I have as much of a punch, especially if you have a heroism in your group and someone pops heroism and you're just haste capped anyways. You're like, all right, I'm already running a lot of haste, and then you give me 20% more haste, and then I have heroism, and now like I don't really notice the difference when one falls off and the other one keeps going, because that to me is a little weird. So I don't know. I just overall the affix to me just doesn't seem to have the same punch. It does lock you in combat, which is super irritating. It does have. I've had multiple pulls this week where we killed the boss, and then the orb spawned as we're moving away from the boss, and you're like, okay, well now we're locked in combat, so we can't res and we can't drink until we get rid of the orbs. So let's go get rid of the orbs, and then we can do these things. That I still dislike. I still think if you're out of combat and the orbs are there, as in like you're out of combat because you're not fighting something, the orb should just despawn immediately and give you the buff. Like they should just pop, which I think would feel way better as far as the mechanic goes, because then you could just kill a boss and move on to the next thing, because Mythic Plus is still a timed thing. It is still something you're pushing against the clock for. You don't want to hang around for. So having the affix be like, yeah, I spawned orbs 3 miles over there, have someone run back and deal with them, or let them all pop, but don't pull anything yet, because if you pull something and they pop, then it gets buffed. So just, you know, chill until they do their pop thing. Like that's either way, it's not super enjoyable. So I think there's some tweaks that could be done to make this a little more streamlined, feel a lot better, feel like it's part of the Mythic Plus system a little more, I think is what I'm getting at here. Is the Mythic Plus system's designed around pushing through keys at a steady pace and doing a route and et cetera, et cetera. And yes, affixes can trip you up in that, but they shouldn't be like a like chain around your ankle that makes you keep looking back over your shoulder to deal with something that has nothing to do with the dungeon that you're actually currently doing. Like it shouldn't feel like it pulls you out of that experience. So I think
Yeah,
that
I
could
get
be
what you're
tweaked.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, for keys this week, I'm actually done with vault keys. I think I've even done extra. I did a bunch, which is good. It always feels good to, you know, have that vault filled up early in the week. And it was kind of, I don't know, it was like a hit or miss week for me. We got a couple 11s done in time, which is really what I want to do. You know, I want to have like at least a couple different groups, you know, or rotate some people through and get some 11s time so that we have plenty of options for 11 keys the following week. Because like I always say, if you break an 11, then you can get a 10, and it's like 2 for 1 for your vault, you know, no matter what happens. So that's like the big benefit there. But we were running with a guildie who I've been playing with for a little while. I think he joined us in Dragonflight, I want to say. And he's just been a little bit behind in terms of just like overall seat time in Mythic Plus so far this season. He just hasn't done as many, and he doesn't have his portals done and stuff. We got him like 3 portals this week, I think. So that's awesome. You know, I'm glad we got that done for him. And, you know, we had some pretty solid groups. So that was fun. We had some just really tough issues with the affix on certain situations, though. Like Miss Scythe, for example, Miss Caller, second boss. Like, man, there's already so much going on in that fight and so much to keep track of.
Here,
and
have 12 more action bars during the phase when there's already 6 more action bars. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be really tricky when you're trying to, you know, deal with the fox.
Yep, CC the fox. Yeah.
Specifically, yeah, that's you know, and we had a couple issues where like we'd be in combat, but maybe I would be not specifically a miscaller, maybe, but I think it did happen on one of the miscallers that we did. Like if I'm maybe in a corner or something, or I'm sort of on the edge of a room with a boss, like the orbs don't spawn on me, and then we have to relocate to get out to them and take care of them, or you know they get missed or whatever. That was really weird. So, you know, I don't know. It's like I don't think of Ascendant as too difficult to deal with because you have so many options to break them. But man, you know, if you get a bad spawn, either at a bad time or in a weird position, they can be super disruptive. And yeah, I agree. Like the buff just doesn't feel like anything. I would almost rather just be like absurd amounts of move speed, like 40% move speed or something. So you're just zooming around with no haste at all. Like I think like trying to go, oh, you get some of this and you get some of that, and so it's a good buff, right? Like I think go all in on something, you know, and Yeah, the haste is
Yeah.
weird because it's like it's all these little mini heroes, and then you hero on a boss, and then the affix immediately spawns, and you're burning your hero to run over here and drop your CC, and now you get basically nothing for it because your GCD period is only going to get so short. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel very impactful in most situations. It's like it's nice to have it when you're doing that big pull, but you're not heroing for it, or like you're doing the boss that isn't the hero boss or whatever. Yeah, that's okay, but it doesn't feel like some massive boon to your damage output or something. So I don't know. I think they've done some interesting stuff with experimenting with affixes this season, but I got to be honest, I'm starting to come more around to the realm of no affix land. I never thought I would say that, but now that it's a reality and you see kind of the direction they're going with affixes versus trying +12s, and it's like, well, if you make the dungeon interactive and challenging enough, then the dungeon can really just be the dungeon, maybe. So I don't know. I'm starting to have a bit of a change of heart, to be honest. So we'll see. I guess what I would like to see for season 2, and we don't have this information right now, but I'd like to see him just go back to the drawing board with a bunch of these. I don't really necessarily want to see any of these affixes come back. Let's try something different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm fully sold on the no affix lane, because I do enjoy having that punch. I enjoy having that bit of boost that comes with stuff. And I think coming off of last week when we had the 20% verse increase, it was like, oh, I feel this. This is something that I can tell. Healing cooldown wise, the group is taking substantially less damage. I can notice that. Damage cooldown wise, our damage dealers are pushing numbers they don't normally push. This is cool. This feels good. It has an ad that chases people. So like the ad's actually in the group. It spawns on someone then is in the group. So it's not like it's way off in the middle of nowhere. It's something that you can target and have splash damage come off of. So it's not like you're necessarily hurting the group by still doing AoE things, as long as you're focused your main cast on that ad. I think it's incorporated well. I like that affix. So then coming into this week with the haste and the movement speed, I just unless they, I suppose another way they could do it is they go, it's actually going to be 100% increased movement speed. That's what's going to happen. So then you'd feel it. You'd pop these orbs and you'd be like, wow, I am zooming. This is like crazy. And people would run off the boats in Dawnbreaker all the time, which would be hilarious. But that would be something that would happen. And it's just one of those cases of, I think you'd feel that a lot more. I don't feel that, like, as you said, the mini heroes, I just don't, I notice occasionally, but it just doesn't feel like a big punch for my character. The movement speed is nice, but again, I don't really notice it that often, because often on fights, especially as a ranged DPS, I'm standing still, and it's only during specific mechanics that I need to move. And a lot of the dungeons are tight spaces anyways, where you don't need to move until you need to move in that one moment, and you have other movement abilities you're used to pressing. I'm wild charging as a boomkin to get out of something, as opposed to running out of it, even though I have the movement speed buff, because I'm just used to doing that. So it's not like that's helping me in some way. Like I still sort of have that planned out. So I think they could do something to make the affix more interesting, and I think that's what it's lacking. I do enjoy doing 12s and 13s and those sorts of keys that make the dungeons have that extra spice to them of, man, stuff really hurts. And yes, some of these dungeons definitely have enough mechanics in them that adding more mechanics is kind of crappy and feels bad. And I can see how you could lean that direction. I just also feel like for characters and players who are trying to get into something fun and silly, affixes should be able to provide that. And I think it might be that Blizzard is too hung up on the Kiss curse, wanting affixes not being too strong is the problem. Even if they shifted affixes turning off to 8s where affixes turn off, I would still be okay with that. And if it meant that 1 to 7 for folks who are just kind of getting to Mythic Plus just had some silly powerful thing that they would get, and there wasn't like a Kiss curse to it, it was just, hey, every now and then an orb spawns and you click on it and it gives you this big buff, and that's crazy, and that spawns right next to your character and it's easy to do. All you have to do is click it. That to me would be interesting, as far as seeing players go, yeah, and I click it and I get 20% more damage or whatever it is, right? And you're like, yeah, you feel that, and you're like trying to time it out where it's like, oh, it spawned there, it's going to sit there for 30 seconds. My cooldowns are 15 seconds out. I'm going to leave that alone, and I'll be able to click it when I want to click it to get my cooldowns going or whatever it is, right? Like that to me would help out people get into the silliness of Mythic Plus early on without it being something that then was way overpowered for people who are doing keystones that give mythic reward level gear out of your vault and things like that, right? I think if they just moved those barriers around a bit, that might be a more interesting thing to sort of get into. And because I do feel like affixes have a place, but I think that place is they should make the dungeon more fun, not more challenging. I think they should make the dungeon more fun, is what affix should be doing, in my opinion. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a transitional phase, I think. One thing that affixes always did initially was kind of provide some week-to-week variety, and they still do that. But we also don't have a dungeon pool that stays the same for 2 entire years anymore, and that's a big part of it. And also, like, in a world where we don't have, I do 10s and 11s like almost exclusively or higher, right? I don't do anything lower than that anymore. So, like, I don't have any tyrannical kind of rotation of variety. Dungeons feel very samey to me, which is okay in some ways, but, the only thing that rotates is that Zealots have affix, and I'm not crazy about them. I can't really say that I feel like we're better off with these than the ones we had in seasons 3 and 4 of Dragonflight.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons. There's better stuff about it. There's worse stuff about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I can see that not doing low keys on a regular basis would just make 10s and 11s feel weird, because really you're geared to do 12s and you're wanting to do 12s, and then 10s just feel oddly punishing or awkward with a dungeon pool that's not staying the same very often, with that just trying to be variety to add in. So yeah, I think affixes should be a leg up. It would be a cool little leg up thing to do. And I think they could even do it where 1 to 4 is this affix that's a leg up bonus for people, and then 5, 6, 7 is this other affix that's a different leg up for people that they can sort of play with and have fun with, and then 8s through up is just no affix. This is the dungeon. It's harder. Pay attention to stuff. You're getting Mythic Vault reward stuff out of doing this, so do whatever it is you need to do. Or you're getting essentially Gilded Crest is what I'm getting at with that, out of doing this. So it's pay attention to mechanics and do the mechanics properly in the dungeon. Now that we've given you essentially a little buff that helps you through it, doing it on the lower difficulties, that sort of spice it up and make it fun. And for those people who are running alts through, I have my Aug Invoker or whatever it is, who's doing 5s and 6s or whatever, it would just be fun to blast and have a good time and chunk through these things pretty easily. I think would be pretty neat to do. And it's very, I guess the other thing you get at is it's more obvious why you're not as powerful as you start doing higher keystones, and why those keystones are getting harder, if something like that is removed from it, as opposed to just passive scaling. So you don't go from a 2 to a 5 and you're like, wow, this is suddenly way more difficult. Why is this so much more difficult? I don't understand. If they're like, hey, those orbs don't spawn anymore on this difficulty, and you knew the orbs were doing something for you and they're not there anymore, you would know that is going to make it harder for you to do. So it's more obvious, I guess, too, and telling to a player. It telegraphs to a player easier as to why things are getting harder. So yeah, I think that'd be good. But we've chatted a bunch at the top of this show. Outside of that, for me, I did anniversary event stuff, still collecting bronze. I have no sets left. I still need to buy up some more stuff though. I need all the Blizzard employee rewards I need to buy. But yeah, it's I've been cranking through the bronze. I've been doing my professions every day. Profession knowledge still feels like they're really gating it a bunch. I messaged Jason shortly after the last record that we had, where I had gone out and gathered 3 Orbinids that were all normal Orbinids. And the first Orbinid gave me 7 tier 2 herbs. The second Orbinid gave me 3 tier 1 herbs. And the third one gave me 3 tier 3 herbs. And I was like, hey, that's the game, I guess.
Just out here rolling dice and herbs. Yep. That's all. Yep.
Didn't matter what my skill points were. They just, that's what you do. So yeah, it just feels
it's realistic.
Weird.
It's immersive, man. You never know what you're going to find out there in the wilds.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Didn't matter how good I was at picking them. You never know. You never know what you're going to get. So yeah, that's that was a funny thing to experience. But yeah, that was like my week in WoW was substantially less playtime than the week before, just with how massively busy this week has been for me with work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I finished all the new tier 2 sets. I don't know what I'm calling them. 2024 tier 2 sets. That's what I've been calling them, because that's what I don't know how else to describe
tier 2 V2.
Yeah, I got them all, and I'm working on the other stuff, but I'm not really doing a lot of anniversary stuff. I'm not grinding away. I'm just doing my normal weeklies, and then that's a ton of bronze tokens, so that's awesome. I got all my alt delves done at this point, at least for the characters I'm working on. My 2 alts I'm gearing are at 613, so I'm getting close. I'm like halfway hero geared out, and so I got them situated for the week. Really weird delves weekly this week because it's 2 unique Hallowfall delves, which made it really kind of complicated. I couldn't just say, okay, it's monk day, I'm going to do all the stuff on the monk and the monk's going to be done, because normally one of my weekly keys is from that weekly cache. So I don't really want to do non-bountiful delves because I'm already wasting enough of my time trying to do all this, right?
Yeah.
So I want to use my time efficiently. So it's like, okay, do the monk delve and Hallowfall today. That's bountiful. Okay, and now do it on the druid. Now wait for tomorrow. Hope it's a different delve. Okay, it is cool. Now do those 2. All right, so that's done. Weekly's done. They both get their key from that. Didn't really love that, but whatever. They're doing different stuff with the weeklies, which is cool in its own right because it gives you some variety of stuff to do. But the 2 unique delves thing I wasn't crazy about, but I'm glad I got them done, and I'm starting to kind of nibble on the paladin just a little bit. He's got some really nice warbound stuff from the warrior, and got like a heroic weapon from one of those time walking boxes earlier this season. I went around and got a bunch of the 597 gear from Renown. That stuff is pretty juicy for like 3,900 resonant crystals. So
yeah,
Paladin's going to be ready to start jumping in there and doing tier 8s like as soon as possible once I get one of these, either the monk or the druid geared out. And that's about it. So I'll probably work on that some more, this weekend. One thing I wanted to mention too, just before we get into anything else, I know like I was talking about game performance and stuff a couple weeks ago, and I kind of let Blizzard have it, and I think rightfully, because I think the game was running like complete ass after this patch. I will say, like the last couple weeks, it has been better. So I just want to acknowledge that on air. Like this week, I had a pretty big group in Heroic Raid. 30 people ish, maybe 28. I don't know. I had something like that, 29. Didn't have all those disconnects off the pole and people getting stuck in limbo. All that BNet, guild login spam. I haven't seen any of that in like 2 weeks now. So I'm not saying it's perfect, and there's like I'm getting like severe loot lag out in the world sometimes and whatever. But just to acknowledge, I think raid performance has been a lot better the last couple weeks, and I appreciate it because I like to run raids and have the game function. And if we got to have performance hits somewhere, I'll vote for outdoor world loot lag over raid lag. I'll take what I can get, I guess. So I'm glad it's been running better.
Well, I'm glad you've had better experiences. we still have massive desync issues on Princess on Mythic. It's very weird. There's still people who die to instantly spawning daggers that take place when the daggers cross the room, that she sort of spits out. For some people, and this has been streamed, so like we watch it happen literally in like frame by frame slow-mo of on their screen, they see a dagger appear and go off instantly and kill them. And you're like, okay, well, there was no way to move out of that. It happened immediately. I had a clip of me dodging. There was when we're doing the intermission phase where we line up, several of us line up in position. So I have a warlock behind me. He was streaming. And so from his perspective, on my screen, I am basically standing in every section as it explodes in his screen. And then on my screen, in my recording, I'm dodging every section before it explodes. And you can literally watch them side by side and be like, wow, there is like massive desync issues happening on this fight. If they're seeing me stand in everything I shouldn't be, and meanwhile, I'm dodging everything on my screen that I should be. And then if any of that desync ever gets out of whack, I had deaths where I died when I had dodged out of a square and have like a screenshot of like the section that I died in highlighted, and then where my corpse is 10 yards out of it inside the other section.
Right.
And on his screen, I died to something that he was watching me stand in. On my screen, I wasn't. And the streams, again, side by side, you're like, okay, I'm in a different position in these two situations. So it's very weird to see that. We're both NA. Like, it's not like this is someone from Australia playing
like
in.
Regional,
It's not that at all. And I have a very low ping, both world and home, inside of World of Warcraft. So it's a very strange thing to watch happen. And that's still something that's happening. So there's still something going on with the raid that is wonky. And it was very, very funny to, after the raid, start comparing people's VODs next to each other and watch those situations of like literally on his screen, I'm standing in bad, watch it explode. I move out of the bad, watch into the next one, watch it explode. Right. And you're like, he's just living through all of it. How is he living through all of these things? And you're like, yeah, Yeah, it's very weird. So I'm hoping they can get a lot of that stuff fixed, because it does cause wipes and it does push out progression, and it does create panic moments for people when they think someone's not moving out of something or doing something wrong on a very precise, precision-based content, which is what those last bosses are of that raid. So yeah, it's important to fix that. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, with that login spam, which is getting so bad, and I think maybe I haven't seen it in a long time, and I'm in a pretty big guild, so like there's people online all the time, and at prime time there's a ton of people online. So when that goes, it was like, depending on your connection and your processor, man, like it would lock people up for 3-4 seconds. You know, even for me on a pretty modern machine, it would be like a full second or two, and that adds up, in a fight. And plus, if it was going off over and over again, it was just like you can't even get into a rhythm with playing the game. So I think that's been pretty much cleaned up. I don't remember seeing it in the last couple of weeks here. So thank goodness, because man, it was pretty rocky out of the gate with this patch.
Yeah, it was. Okay, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft, because we've still got lots to talk about. All right, this week is the Battleground bonus event, is what we got coming up. The sign of battle is up. Honor gains from Battleground wins and objectives are increased by 50%. And of course, there's a quest to win 4 Battlegrounds, random Battlegrounds, that is, that you have to queue into. So be sure to keep an eye out for that if you're a PvPer. We also have the Call of the World Soul going on based off our 3-week rotation. So you'll be choosing between world quests or dungeons or Awakening the Machine or Severed Threads Pact or Theater Troop or Snuffing, or it's going to be like one of those, it'll be 4 of those 6 things. We don't know which 4 it'll be, but you'll have a peek. It might even be Delves might be thrown into that. We don't know. So just have a peek and see which one that is. But we expect it'll be the choose one quest.
It should be.
I like picking theater. That's just an easy thing that I already tell people to do every week. It's do 2 world quests plus do the theater performance. So super easy to do.
Pretty good one.
Get to the reward really quick. Probably. Yeah. So be sure you're checking it out. I know Jason recommends Awakening the Machine because it doubles up too. It's just do the 20 waves of the scenario, and you have to do the 20 waves of the scenario anyways. It's another way to double up if that's something you're looking to do as well.
Pretty good one for bronze tokens, and if you need like Valor Stones and lower level crests, pretty good currency run there. Yeah. I like world quests too. Like it's not that many, and like I'm gonna go do the world quest anyway, right? I'm gonna do at least the world boss and the Severed Thread. So there's my 6 world quests right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the choose one is great. Like I think it's the best one because you can really just pick whatever suits your play style. You can you have some variety on different characters. So it should be. I mean, this is what we're kind of seeing consistently. Is this 3-week rotation on these now? Now that we're seeing the bigger picture, so it's a good one. I like it better than the other 2. Especially as like delves have slowed down for me. Like especially in the main, it's like I guess I'll go do them because I want my fragment, and I want my bronze, and I want to stay up to date on my main. But like, I don't really want to do the delves on the main.
I want them to adjust the delve reward based off of eye level is what I want them to do. I think the reward for doing delves for that weekly quest should be based off of your eye level. And so if you're someone who has like a 620 and above eye level, it should be a situation where they go, hey, we're actually going to give you Gilded Crests as one of the rewards for this. So it's going to be it's going to be 5. Yeah. It's not going to be a lot, but it's going to be some Gilded Crests. You're like, hey, I can get some I get something useful. Because at the moment you just don't. Right. You run the delves you need to run, and then you're like, hey, here's a box full of stuff I don't really care about. Moving on to the next thing. Like that's give me my fragment.
Doing stuff in the service of like the weekly reward. It's just it feels weird, and it's one thing when it's like the raid or it's keystones because that's like challenging group content that's hopefully fun to do with your group, and there's some benefit to that just existentially in the game, like you as a player. I think like I just do delves solo mostly, and it's like, I'll do some delves in the main this week, I guess. Well, let me try doing a 9 and a 10 because I didn't do them yet. So like whatever, I'll start unlocking some more of the top end of the system, I guess. There's just not as much texture to it. Like we were talking a little bit pre-show, and it's like I'm doing delves because it's too efficient not to, but I don't really love the gameplay. It's okay, but it's not like WoW shines in that 5-man dungeon or that 10+ player raid. It doesn't shine in stuff that can scale from solo to small group. It's not the game's strength, and so it's cool that it's there, but it's feeling more like a chore to me than anything else.
World boss this week is Orda, the Deepwalker Giant in Azj-Kahet. So if you're looking for the world boss, head on down to Azj-Kahet. The Mythic Plus affixes for the week are Oblivion, Fortified, and Tyrannical. Obviously at 10 you get both Fort and Tyrannical kicking in, but it's a Fortified for those who are doing 4s and below. Oblivion is that crystals will spawn and move towards an enemy while in combat, and if these crystals reach the enemy, they take 10% reduced damage. If the player absorbs it, they get a Mastery and Leech buff. This is another one that I notice the buff from when I actually get them. However, these are like absolutely terrible to play against on certain encounters. Like there's just some bosses where having these orbs spawn is brutal and impossible to get. Like both the last boss and third to last boss of Siege of Borealis is a terrible boss where if they spawn when the waves are coming out and they're on the other side of the statue, they're going to get to the boss before they get to you, which means that essentially the boss is going to get this huge buff, which is a problem because, you know, that just dramatically affects the key, and it's not something that you can really counterplay unless you have someone who happens to have bubble and like a movement speed ability they can pop at the same time to live and run through all of this damage to try and collect the orbs for you, which I feel like is too specific of a counterplay. There's not enough classes that have something like that to be able to properly do it. That's a big problem. So unless they start like guiding these things to only spawn at certain points of the encounter and that they can't spawn when another thing is happening inside of the encounter, another event's taking place, I feel like this is still going to be a really wonky affix to try and deal with that can just RNG break keys for you, which isn't fun because keys are supposed to be something that are repeatable and you have a plan for and you can sort of work with. Whereas in this case, it's like, no, this literally could be something that just happens to spawn at the wrong moment and now you're kind of screwed. There's like the last boss of Miss, the third boss of Arakara, where you have like the zone you have to stand in and it spawns outside of the zone and the boss is up against one edge of it and you're trying to get them at the right, like it's nearly impossible to get them. The City of Threads has multiple bosses where if these things spawn at the wrong time in the wrong place, you just can't get them at all and wipe the group doing it, or there's so many other orbs already spawned in that you can't tell which orb you're supposed to be running into and absorbing as a DPS inside that situation. So there's a lot of stuff like that where I just feel like this just needs a different way of working as far as what they're doing. There's just a problem with it, and they need to sort out how to make it a better affix, because I don't mind the buff. I think Mastery and Leech is something that I feel there is a pow to that. There is a noticeable difference with it. And Mastery affects all classes in a positive way, which is good. So does Leech. But how the affix works needs to be looked at a bit for me.
Yeah, maybe it would just be good if like the orbs didn't spawn in a circle around the arena, but they spawned like opposite the boss. So you were always already in between the orb. Like I know that makes it a little bit trivial, but with the orb spawning potentially 360 around the arena, that also means sometimes it's impossible to get them, you know? Yeah. And it's okay if the boss gets one or two orbs, I guess, but you really don't want them to do that. So it's tough. I don't know. This affix can be pretty disruptive. It can feel like you're doing this affix wrong the entire time. Yeah. Just because, I got 8 stacks of the buff, but the boss got 2. Yeah. Well, we didn't do it good enough. Like,
well, and to be fair, the bonus you get from 8 stacks of the buff does not outweigh the 20% reduced damage the boss is now taking. Just as an FYI, like that is a substantial reduction in damage that much Mastery and Leech bonus is not going to compensate for. If you're like people popping cooldowns, doing whatever it is, especially if you're someone who has 2-minute cooldowns and that happens during that window, you just like threw away a bunch of damage, which is really unfortunate.
It's like you're already losing time on the boss because you're adjusting to the positioning requirements for the orbs, and now you missed a couple, and now you're losing even more time because the boss is taking less damage. I mean, it's just that's what we're doing this season. That's what it is. So just be ready for it. I don't know, and sometimes it's not bad to deal with at all, and the extra mastery can be really good for some classes. Even classes that, like, if you don't like Mastery, if it's not like one of your stronger stats, whatever, it's free. So like you're getting a benefit from it, and it's not like, there's no Mastery equivalent of Bloodlust or something in the game, right? Like it's not a buff you're getting from anywhere else. So like that's the good part about it. It's okay. I don't know. The more I think about it, it's like I don't really look forward to any of these FX weeks, I guess, is what I'm saying. Now that we're like a couple rotations through, we've seen each one of them a few times. It's like, all right, let's get ready for some nonsense when a really bad crystal spawns. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That's just how this FX feels for me. All right. Either way, though, Pilgrim's Bounty is also happening, kicking off later this week, the 24th until the 1st. The 24th of November until the 1st of December is going to be Pilgrim's Bounty. There are 2023 updates in Valdrakken where you can find bountiful tables and stuff out there. The Onaran Plains had a large influx of wild turkeys, and you can help complete a mission for the Turkinator by doing stuff out there, which is fun. I'm glad they incorporated all of that into there. That's always fun. Obviously, Venthyr back inside Shadowlands has the never-ending feast going on, so if you're trying to get some more rep and stuff done during the Venthyr party, you can do that there. You get double the friendship. The Night Fae have the spirit of sharing, and then you can sort of go there and continue to leave your chair and get yourself the turkey soul shape that you can get there by doing the spirit of sharing that happens there. The turkey soul shape is something that everyone should have. I'm sad that soul shapes are just like phased out entirely as a thing. I really wish that they had some way of bringing those back in on some level. I think it would be a lot of fun. Even if it's just only an open world, I really enjoyed having this massive collection of soul shapes and gathering them all. Cool. And like I just got one the other day. I was doing PvP and it literally gave me a soul shape as one of the rewards for winning the battleground. And I was like, dude, I forgot that this was a thing. Like I didn't have this one, I guess. So
what stinks about that is like, oh, you got to go back there.
I had to go back to turn it in.
To turn it in. Yeah,
I did.
But yeah, I mean, we don't know if there's going to be anything new this year. I mean, again, it's been many years since I spent any time on PTRs and kind of looking at stuff in advance of it coming out. Pilgrim's Bounty is not really a big deal in the game. Back when it served its purpose as a way to quickly catch up your cooking skill.
Yeah,
if you had a tune that was behind on cooking, but kind of pointless in that regard in the modern game. I will say that the silver-plated turkey shooter is one of the best toys, and you should have it. So if you don't, you should definitely do that, this next week coming up, just to be ready, just in case you need to, cover your friend with turkey feathers. Make sure you have your shooter. But yeah, it's, I'm not expecting any kind of big updates here, like some kind of turkey-themed mount armor or something. I don't.
Dude, give me a cornucopia on the back of my mount. That'd be great.
Yeah,
let's do that.
I mean, they could have. I think they missed the boat on that one at this point. Mm-hmm. Maybe some. We got all the like the kind of silly like kobold cosmetics from the Delve system, like the hats and stuff. Maybe we could do
cornucopia
like
you can wear on your head. Sure, let's do that.
Just like turkey head hat or something. I don't know, but. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't expect any huge updates to the system. I mean, geez, when did the silver-plated turkey shooter come in? I once said it was Cataclysm. Like it's ancient now.
Ages ago. Yeah. No, it's ages ago.
And so I don't think it's any big deal, but it is going on next week. So just be aware if it's of interest to you.
I will say there's a lot of holiday events being updated over the next year in the roadmap. So there's a chance that Pilgrim's Bounty might have some updates and have some stuff done to it. Because if they are going through and revamping all of these holiday events, we'll probably see something happening there. Because I know, like, I was very excited. Brewfest is on the list of things that's getting a full update, so that could be very cool. I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully they do something with Pilgrim's Bounty, because I agree with you. I think it'd be really fun to do. I would love if they threw in, again, like the speed cooking, but have it relevant to the expansions. Like just have like each expansion gets their own food type that lets you skill up cooking inside of that expansion. Would be a really nice thing to add in for that. So. Yeah, it'd be cool to do that. Okay, hot fixes. We know that they fixed some things with Druid. They made it so that the wild shape mastery bonus for your next ferocious bite or mangle will now be consumed by abilities cast by Convoke the Spirit. In other words, hey, when you cast the Convoke the Spirit, you won't come out of it with a bunch of buffs that are just kind of like chilling there on your character that you then have to go through and use. It'll actually use them properly during Convoke, which overall I think is a better way of doing it than coming out of Convoke with a bunch of buffs you then have to use the moment you get out of Convoke, which is good to see. In Hunters, they made the extra tranquilizing shots from the Kodo Tranquilizer. They'll no longer target things out of combat Always good to see changes for that, so you aren't accidentally tranquilizing like a random monkey off in the forest. You're actually doing it to the thing you're fighting when you're shooting that. That's always a good thing to see.
It's really good in like your Siege of Borealis or something, or your Dawnbreaker, you know, when you're in the town. Yeah. We don't like things that shoot things that aren't in combat. So thank you for that one.
Yeah. In Delves, a noob Veer will no longer be accompanied by 2 new Rubian Threadmancers, and the damage of impaling spikes is reduced by 30%. So they're making that an easier encounter for folks inside Delves. I do know that there are particular Delves I just avoid because of bosses I don't like. And so, you know, it's nice if they start fixing some of these so they move off of my I don't want to bother with it list, which is good to see. They resolved an issue in Necrotic Wake where people were getting stuck on the taxi path. That's an important thing to fix. I do know that
sounds really bad.
I do know that I was one of these people during Rhybinder's Dark Exile. We were doing a key, and I literally got grabbed, was sent down to a platform, went back up to the main platform, got sent down to the platform, got back up to the same platform. My group's like, did you just get sent down twice? And I was like, no, it just hasn't landed me yet. And then it just eventually landed me. And I was like, okay. It was like 30 seconds of the key that I just spent bouncing back and forth between the boss and the platform. So yes, I'm glad that that got looked at.
Yeah, fixed. And hopefully that won't be happening anymore.
Yeah, I hope so too. They also had some fixes to the 20th anniversary event. They fixed several issues with the pirate foods and superstitions that was taking place, as well as the pirate gastronomy apparently also had some issues. A lot of gut problems for pirates this week, so I'm glad they went in and sorted out whatever was going on there with their gastrointestinal system. So good to see, as well as due to the horrors of repeated acts of violence at the anniversary grounds, the Bronze Dragonflight organizers have made it a sanctuary area. Thank you. They kindly ask guests to take their conflicts outside of the grounds. Yeah, the biggest issue here was if someone was PvP flagged and hit somebody, or was in war mode and hit somebody, even if it was intentional or not, it would spawn in these like Bronze Dragonflight guards. But the Bronze Dragonflight guards didn't hit very hard and didn't accomplish much, which meant that there was very little punishment for doing it. And what ended up happening to me one time was someone attacked me and was fighting me and just didn't care. They like bubbled and were sort of had like 4 guards trying to beat on them. And so I was like, fine, they're bubbling down, and I unloaded on them, and then all the guards turned to attack me. And I was like, great, now I have the guards and the dude, and I'm being the one being punished for that's the guy who started the PvP, right? And it was like, okay, I'm done with this. I stopped going there in war mode because it was just a bad system. I don't know why it wasn't a sanctuary to begin with. I'm glad it's a sanctuary now. It was silly to have people be able to PvP there. I don't get it. So yay, thank you for the fix.
Yeah, good change. And hey, I guess it's my obligation to mention that, yeah, if you turn on war mode and you go do your trivia question, now you get extra, 10% XP from that. So
you do.
That's good. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense for that to be a PvP area in the first place. Not like narratively, not in terms of like, what's happening in the game, and certainly not in terms of the mechanics of like what players are doing there. So that's good. Yeah. I mean, it's still kind of early days for the event. I think a lot of people have kind of done what they needed to do with the event at this point, but it's still going for 2 more months. So, why not make it more player friendly?
Yeah. As far as Mythic Queen Ansarek goes, she got herself some big nerfs. This is a weird one to see, actually. I'm glad they're doing it, because there are teams that need to kill this boss, and I'm going to be one of them at some point in the next 3 weeks, so that's something that I want to do. They made it so that the number of targets for web blades was reduced, as well as the grasping silk damage. They also made it so the number of reactive toxins applied per cycle was also reduced, both of those by 1. As well as the Silk Tomb health was reduced, as well as frothing toxin damage reduced on that fight, but all by substantial amounts. So they made that phase 1 phase just a lot easier for people to get through. They also made so that when you removed the second Silken Tomb cast, they just removed it from the final cycle of the phase and adjusted the timings of other abilities in this final cycle to accommodate for this change. So basically, they didn't throw off everyone's cooldowns, which was really nice when they removed that second Silken Tomb. So that made the fight a lot easier, and that's just phase 1. In phase 2, they made it so that the shadowy distortion duration was reduced to 30 seconds from 3 minutes, as well as the gloom blast damage reduced by 20%. And in phase 3, the number of acolytes was down to 4 from 5. They removed the first cast of Royal Condemnation, adjusted the timing, same thing they did before, and they removed the Web Blades cast that overlapped with applications of Abyssal Infusion, which also is really nice. So like, they made the fight substantially easier, which is good to see. And overall, glad to see the changes. Happy with that. I'm confused as to why Queen's the one who's getting nerfs first, though. That's the part that throws me. I did the math on Thursday last week, or no, I did the math on Wednesday this week, and the 4 of 8 teams at the time, teams that were 4 of 8 Mythic, there's 1,880 teams. There were 4 of 8 Mythic. There were 644 that were 5 of Mythic. There were 551 that were 6. There is 197 that are 7, and there's 95 that have killed the boss. So you're fixing something for the 197 teams at the moment. I feel like you should fix something for the 1,880 teams. I feel like that's kind of a higher priority.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a weird thing.
It's not like a zero-sum thing, right?
No.
Like, it's their game. It's not like there's only so many changes they can make to it at a time. So, yeah, I do think it's a little weird when you see this huge drop-off from Rashadan to Brood Twister.
Well, it's not just Brood Twister or Princess.
Or Nexus Princess. Yeah, like, it's a cliff that teams fall off of after Rashadan, where it's like, the kill rate just plummets. Well,
and the kill rate between the basically 5 or 6 bosses and the 7th boss is there's 3 times more teams that have, that are stuck than teams that have gotten through that. So you're like, okay, it's not like one of these bosses is easier than the other. When you're looking at numbers like 551 and 644 between, who's 5 of 5 and who's 6 of 6, like they're still clearly very difficult bosses. So it's a weird thing to look at. I'm with you.
Yeah, like you could fix more than one boss a week.
Yeah.
Or retune it. I mean, I don't want to fix is maybe a little loaded, but you know what I mean? You can adjust more than one boss at a time. I think it's good for them to adjust this boss, because I think it's like when you look at overall, I mean, I'm looking at it right now and we're only at 153 kills and the boss has been out for a while now. So, that's probably time to adjust it, but there's other bosses downstream that, like, you have thousands of teams that aren't even looking at this boss yet. So granted, the stacking zone buff will help and stuff like that, but it doesn't replace the need. It doesn't replace the need for, targeted nerfs and adjustments to fights. Like it's a nice thing to push people along, but you also have to be deliberate with some of these bosses.
Yeah, it's not, DPS isn't the thing that's wiping teams on a lot of these bosses. Is DPS going to help on some of these bosses? Minorly, because it means they'll have to see the mechanics less times. So there's less times for those unforgiving mechanics to kill somebody. But in general, if you've gotten to Brood Twister, you're probably not in a situation where DPS is now your problem, especially as you said with the buffs that are coming through the week. It's mechanics and executing mechanics well and doing things well. And I was racking my brain of like, what would be a good fix to Princess if you're going to change something that's not going to dramatically change what the fight is, because it's a very fun fight and it's a neat fight, but there's just a lot of unforgiving mechanics, and one person messing something up basically wipes the group. And that's very odd to see at a 5th boss inside of the raid. When there's 8 bosses in the raid, that's something you tend to see in the last 2 bosses of the raid. It's not something you tend to run into too early, is a bunch of mechanics that are very unforgiving. And one of the most unforgiving aspects of that boss is if you hit 10% health, you die. They just execute you. And I was like, a nice nerf to that boss might be to say, hey, if you hit 10% health, you get a debuff. And if that debuff is on you for more than a second, it kills you. But that means that debuff will go away if you go back above 10% health. Because there were multiple times where someone in our group dipped below 10% health, was popped back up to like 50 or 60%, and then was killed. And I know, because it happened to me, I dipped to 9%, I drank a health pot, shot up to 87% health, and then died. And I was like, okay, fine, I see, okay. Like that's one of those things where you're like, that could be a more forgiving mechanic, and that would be just an instant way to be like, all right, we've now eliminated wipes, it's still a challenge, it's still something you have to behave to, but it's not something where, hey, you dip below 10%, and even though you're now at 87, I'm still executing you. And you're like, that's dumb.
Right. Like just a little more tolerance around that. Like, exactly. You've now reached a 10% threshold. Now you have 3 seconds to react.
Yeah, or like one. Like I'm just asking for one. I'm like, hey, if I drink a health pot below 10%, I should live through that fight.
Right. Yeah. It's just it said 10%, so you're dead. Yeah. That's just how it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think some of that stuff, that's kind of what I'm saying about, the being deliberate about some of the changes for the bosses that people are really stuck on, because it is great. Like, I think the zone buff is awesome. It's a great system, and it's feeling great to kind of power it up and be able to bring alts in or whatever, or, even just bring people in fresh. You don't even have stacks of the buff, but we're so buffed up that we can kill the bosses, and even if they're not contributing that much. But it's not raid tuning, right? Raid tuning is not just the numbers. So, there's more to it than that. And so I would like to see more of that. I feel like they've been real hands off with this stuff. And also feel like for a big chunk of this raid, like, there's not that much that's super necessary. But when you see these sort of kill rates on these last few bosses, I think the difference is pretty stark.
Yeah, to me, it's half the raid, right? The first half of the raid, you can sort of get through and it's good to go. And then you basically hit the second last boss and the last boss, which is Ovanax and Princess. And when you've got through those, you then hit the second last boss and last boss, which is Court and Queen. And you're like, wait a minute, why are there two of these? This shouldn't be a thing. Like, that's sort of what the raid feels like. It's very weird to be like, yeah, here's the raid dungeon. Oh, here's the last boss and second last boss. Oh, actually, you just beat those two. Here's two more. You're like, oh, okay, why are they all scaled this way? This doesn't make sense. So I'm hoping we see some forgiveness built into that. Because, yeah, you're right. Like, the damage and healing is going to go up with the raid buff that's there. I don't think it's going to solve a lot of the problems that they have, because I think the majority of problems people are having is someone not popping an egg on Ovanax, because the way that the radius works on the egg circles is if you do not have enough of the egg inside of your little circle that you have around your character, then it doesn't pop the egg. And so that's a wipe instantly because you missed popping an egg, right? Like, that kind of thing is what's wiping people on these. And it's like, all right, how about we take the damage off of if you overlap circles with other people? There's just no damage at all as far as that goes. And we make the circle bigger so it's more likely to pop the egg. Like, how about we do that? And that makes that fight dramatically easier for a lot of people. That has nothing to do with the mechanics of the fight itself. Like, there's just forgiveness that can be built in with a lot of these mechanics that I think they need to look at and just go, all right, little tweaks here and there. These fights now feel like more consistent fights that you can progress on. So be happy to see that. All right. The 11.0.7 content update that came in this past week was the Answer the Call to the Siren Isle. This is a little pass at, hey, this is the quest that goes in for you to head over to the Siren Isle and start checking stuff out. However, this content is not live yet. Players will unlock a different Ring of Powers weekly over 6 weeks, leading to the ability to fly once this is all complete. So basically, there's a quest chain that was added in, but it's not fully live yet for you to get in and check out. But they are doing stuff with 11.0.7, and we are expecting it next month. So,
yeah,
be ready for it.
No huge build update this past week or since we last spoke. But I think the big thing they wanted to clarify here is the whole campaign process and the unlock process. It's sped up on PTR, right?
Yeah.
Like, it has to be, because PTR is a relatively short cycle, especially these days, and they want to get everything that they want to test in for testing. What I saw going around the data mining sphere this week was like, oh, you can unlock flying in Siren Isle after the first week. And it's like, well, you can do that on PTR.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different timing on live, and it's going to be more of a sort of a gradual rollout of like, okay, there's content to play through, there's stuff to unlock. So just be aware of that, I guess. If you saw some headlines this week about like flying on Siren Isle, just contextualize that for yourself. I do think I think it's okay to have a bit of a longer unlock cycle, but we live in a world where patches are like 2 months long. And so if this is going to come out December 17th, then that means we're going to be out of it by like February, which means for only like the back half of it, we're going to be able to fly there. And then we're probably, okay, I'm just going by the example of the way Forbidden Reach worked in Dragonflight. Like, probably once we're into the next patch, like, we're not really coming back here. So I don't know. Maybe it could be like a 3-week unlock might be a bit better, but I guess it depends on how they're rolling the content out, how the story kind of gets told, and what players are really doing in there. But anyway, that's my little PSA of like, hey, if you saw that stuff about Fly Week 2, well, that's only on PTR.
Yeah, let's talk Warcraft Direct, because it starts off with Siren Isle, and so that just makes sense. Launched on December 17th, so that's when it's kicking off. That's an NA, obviously. It's a new zone that we can go to. You're going to be able to explore environments, get the next chunk of the storyline that's taking place there, and there'll be achievements and all sorts of crazy stuff there, as well as, they mentioned a ring that's going to be powerful for you to be able to check out and unlock different things for. So that's going to be a chunk of content for us to check out the 17th of December. They also are going to have this like crazy outdoor world area that's going to help you catch up on the rewards for your alternate characters as well. So I'm curious what the catch up is going to feel like and what those rewards are going to feel like, whether they're going to be heroic item level to sort of catch people back up to, hey, this is where you need to be before the next chunk of content drops, or like what that's going to feel like. My guess is this is end of delve loot. This is 600 eye level loot that people are getting out of this stuff.
I would think champ track stuff. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think like tokens. Forbidden Reach was very powerful for this at the very end of season 1 Dragonflight, and it seems like they're really using that model here for Siren Isle. So I would expect something like that. What would be really cool with this would be if we get increased catalyst charges and start getting that MOG. You know, I'm a little behind on my MOG across my tunes because those catalyst charges are super valuable, right? For like your high item level gear.
Yep.
But I want my class sets too. So hopefully that'll be part of this. It should be a good opportunity to, you know, fill in those pieces that maybe have been lagging behind, or gear up a fresh character, get your set bonuses going with the catalyst. So yeah, I mean, Forbidden Reach was a tiny slice of Dragonflight, but I think in that window where it was relevant, it really served a purpose. And I think the goal here is just to like, here's like a little outdoor refresh, some new stuff to go check out, like new story stuff to experience, and just a way to kind of get across that finish line for season 1, right? The ring that's coming in should give you a little power bump if you needed to clear some content, or just get your stable set up for season 2. And I think it's a great thing to put in, and it works really well in Dragonflight, and it seems like they're following the same template here.
Yeah, and we're seeing an update to Winter Veil that's also coming in this patch, so we'll have new holiday stuff for people to check out. And of course, we're also seeing the Turbulent Timeways come back. For people who have not gotten the Turbulent Timeways achievements, here is your chance. They're coming back. Get your Turbulent Timeways achievements.
I don't think I have them because I was in Japan and I missed like that last year. And if they've done it since then, I just didn't hang in there. But now I got like so many tunes to take care of. But yeah, Turbulent Timeways basically means time walking every week for the last 6 weeks or whatever of the season. And so a real chance to get quick gear and XP and stuff, and get those rewards knocked out and all that stuff. Get some there's so much badge stuff to buy now from the different vendors, so badges have some value again. So yeah, that'll be cool. Like I think Turbulent Timeways is a nice way to wrap up a season, just again a chance to get those reward caches and all that stuff.
We're going to see Plunderstorm return at some point, and it's going to have a whole different way of doing a reward track. They're basically putting a shop in where when you win, you earn currency, and you can use to buy the rewards you want from the shop, as opposed to having to progress along the renown track in order to get things. So that's going to be new for folks, but it'll have a bunch of quality of life changes, spell interactions, UI update, a whole bunch of stuff that goes in. So they're still workshopping Plunderstorm, and this is their way of doing a soft 2.0 release, I guess.
Yeah, kind of cool. I know people who just absolutely love Plunderstorm and didn't want it to go away and have been waiting for it to come back. So it's only gone for a few months, I guess. When was it in? Like April or something? And so now it's coming back. I'm guessing this is going to be shortly after the new year that it'll come back in for probably like 6 weeks or something would be my guess. I think it's cool. Like I like Plunderstorm okay. I didn't love it. I really disliked it when it first came out, actually, but I kind of warmed up to it as I played it some more and as they adjusted, kind of the overall ebb and flow of the game.
Right.
I like the idea of, hey, here, pick what you want. It being a renowned track the first time around was kind of weird. Like you knew that what you were going to get and what you had to do to get it, so that was kind of fair. But it was just weird. Like it wasn't a rep for your character or anything like that. It was just this outside thing on your account. So I like the idea of giving more flexibility in terms of picking what you want. It seems like you can actually queue for this from inside the regular game client this time, which is a huge upgrade. Versus having to go in like the separate section of the client and you're just in Plunderstorm world when it's time for you to do that. So, it's nice. I guess like I'll probably check this out. If it's a bunch of palette swaps of existing stuff, then I don't know. I might not max it out. I do love the pirate theme though. So if there's a bunch of cool new pirate stuff, then I'll be in there. I'll just please let's start it with let's start with the reward generosity that we ended up with the first time, right? Let's not start with the super dialed down rewards and build them up. Like, we know what's good. Let's just have the good thing from day one.
Exactly. Yeah. We also obviously got teases of what's happening next as far as the season 2 launch and what's happening with the content that's going on in there. They didn't give us a date for all this stuff, but as you said, last time we saw Turbulent Timeways, it was like 6 weeks. So we're thinking early to mid Feb kind of range for folks to be able to get stuff. Maybe a week later than that, maybe closer to end of Feb for us to be launching season 2. So we'll see what happens with that. But we know that Undermined is the theme / name of this content update that's going to be going live. It's going to involve a lot of goblins and a lot of goblin stuff, the different goblin factions. I imagine this will be very the Silken Threads group that you're sort of helping out. I imagine it'll be very similar with that, of helping out, Monty Gaslow and Renzik the Shiv and Baron Rabagaz and Marin Noggenfogger will be the 4, and you'll be picking which one you're helping each week and getting reputations towards them, and there'll be a storyline that plays out, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that's what's going to happen. But essentially, there'll be a new area that we go to. That new area will be very goblin-centric, that has goblin cities, and we sort of are helping these folks out inside that area. There is a new dungeon, which is Operation Floodgate, where you sort of head down in and participate in this. There will be, this will be a part of the Season 2 dungeon pool. It'll be on Heroic, Mythic, Zero, and Mythic Plus, alongside 4 other dungeons and 3 legacy dungeons. So we know that's going to be 5 dungeons and then 3 legacy ones that are in there. They say they'd be remiss if they didn't include Motherlode from Battle for Azeroth in their rotation. So I expect Motherlode to be one of those Mythic Plus dungeons that we're going to be seeing. So,
yeah, I mean, you kind of got to do Motherlode with the Goblin patch, right? It only makes sense.
Yep, it makes sense. So follow that. There's a car that you can earn and drive around the zone at substantially faster speed than you would on any other ground mount. I imagine they have to make it competitive enough that once people unlock flying in the area, you still have a reason to be on the car, or maybe they make the car into a flying car like they did with the dirigible. Who knows? But one of those things that I think they'll be looking at. There's the new raid. It's going to be another 8-boss raid called the Liberation of Undermine, where people are going to be heading in and fighting out, obviously, the storyline there. No spoilers on that. But that'll be something that folks can get into with an 8-boss raid. So at least we know what to expect. Probably something similar to this first raid as far as pacing and timing goes. I hope that they obviously don't have the same brick walls that exist currently, but that's just to be expected as they get better and better at doing things over that period of time. So along with all of this information I've just listed, we got the layout roadmap for 2025. So the things that were not included in the blurb I just read for the Undermined 11.1 patch is Drive, which is that car that I talked about. It's going to be one of those things. New delves, we know those are kicking off and coming in, so there'll be new stuff for people to experience with that. They said Cartel Renown, which is why I say this is probably a lot like the Silken Threads. It's going to be happening that. We're getting Warband's UI updates with Warband's Camp and Collections, so obviously we're going to have something new with the Warband starting screen, probably, with a different background or something like that there, which I'm super excited about. So we should be seeing that come in.
Some kind of collection manager for the login UI there. Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, there's storyline stuff that we're going to be participating in as well. So I imagine we'll get a lot more of that. And it sounds like, because this is very goblin-centric, it's probably going to be a lot more horde-centric. A lot of people were really complaining about how Alliance-centric and Anduin-centric the first chunk of this expansion was. Well, I imagine the second patch is going to be very horde-centric. So maybe it balances out and people are happy. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think people are going to be happy, but that's fine.
Fair enough. Other people will be angry.
Yeah, nothing you can do about that. Yeah. But I mean, Undermine is a location that we've been hearing about for a really long time, and I don't know. I guess it only makes sense that we're going there in the subterranean expansion, right? Yeah. But I kind of never thought we actually would go there. So it's cool. I think it's cool that you're doing it. It's really not my vibe or aesthetic. It's not like a place that I'm super excited about exploring, but goblins are sort of this avenue that they can put some really wild ideas into WoW via. So I am excited just to see what they do with it. Like in the raid teaser, you kind of see like a flyby of The raid interior, which is like it's like we're fighting through the city basically, but there's this, I don't know if it's one or two encounters, but there's this like mechanical T-Rex. It looks kind of like Grimlock in Dino mode, right? And then it's like fighting or lined up like across from this like giant WoW gorilla with these like cybernetic enhancements. Like I thought that stuff was awesome. Like that's really cool and really out of left field for WoW. So I think it's going to be fun. I think a lot of people, like myself included, probably were sort of just thinking of a more direct continuation of like the 11.0 story and like, okay, what's next for Xalatath and whatever. And this is a big left turn, but it looks fun. I mean, I think they're doing some cool stuff. I'm excited about the possibilities for the car. I think, the Pilot Wing 64 kind of stuff in WoW has worked out pretty well. So I'm ready for some Mario Kart. I think they could do some really fun stuff with that.
If they actually did a Mario Kart, that would be crazy.
Yeah, like if it feels good to drive. Like, I mean, they could have like races or something. You know what I mean? Like we saw with the dragon riding like that. I think that could be really fun. So that's cool. New delves are kind of to be expected, I think. And they did say they're going to refresh the existing delves, which I think is great. Like if delves are a thing that I'm going to be doing on multiple characters every week forever, then having a seasonal refresh with some different stuff, just mix up kind of the layouts. That's great. Although it sounds like Brand's coming back. I kind of thought we'd have like
a different, they sort of where Gazlo would come in or something. Yeah,
we'd have different companions in delves, and I guess that's at least for season 2. That's not the case. That's okay. I thought maybe they would mix it up a bit more than that.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Brand comes back and trades off. I don't know. Partway through, maybe you unlock Gazlo through doing campaign stuff, but they just don't want to say that yet.
Right. But, it could be. Or I mean, if we have Bran expansion, then we have like he's the perfect character for it. So I don't feel bad about that. I just thought it may be an opportunity to do something different.
I thought what they would do honestly is give us a different person from the Explorers League with each patch, and then you'd be able to choose.
That makes sense.
At any point, you could be like, I don't want Bran to help me out with this. I want Ontario,
Elise or Reno or something.
Yeah, Reno to help me out, whatever it is.
Or like I think Daggeron's just a character to be so cool for that, since they've kind of establishing him so much in this expansion. But
the bumbling I'm afraid of adventure, but I throw out powerful inventions character.
Yeah, like that would be really cool. And it would be, I think, a lot different flavor from Bran, which would make it cool. So but I'm okay with Bran sticking, especially if it means we don't have to like level him back up. If we're just going right in there with like leveled up Bran, then that's cool. I mean, one thing I will say, like I can't help these things crossing my mind. Like this is like back to back 8 boss raids.
Yep.
Which is okay. They're traditionally, you would consider that a small raid, right? Compared to a 12 or 13 or 14 boss raid. I think this is just the reality that we're living in. For sure. You want a patch every 2 months. You want an expansion every 18 to 21 months. You're getting a raid means 8 bosses. I think it's okay. I do think it means that the overall raid lifespan is just shorter because just by natural extension, it's not going to take you as long to master 8 bosses as it would to master 12 or 13 or 14. But I think it's okay if you have other stuff to do, which we're getting a lot of. The other thing is no mega dungeon. Dot 1 has been the traditional domain of the mega dungeon for the last like 4 expansions. They're not going that route this time, and I think that's okay. Like my initial reaction was like, well, this is just like overall less stuff, and I was a little afraid of us getting less stuff in this kind of new era of WoW production. And so my initial like gut punch reaction is, well, this is just, it's not what we would normally get. Like the mega dungeon was such a huge centerpiece of 10.1 and or it was 10.1.5, I guess, is when it came in. But in that cycle, like, and it was so cool. Like Dawn of the Infinite was great. But, then I look ahead and it's like, all right, just to skip ahead a tiny bit, we're getting another new dungeon in season 3. So instead of getting one big new dungeon for the expansion, we're getting 2 regular sized dungeons.
Yep.
And also I think rolling the dungeon straight into the pool is kind of cool because like if you're not going to have the mega dungeon that's its own slice of content, its own focal point, then put it in the new rotation right away. I think it's just a different flavor from what we've been used to since Legion, basically, or I guess really since BFA is kind of the model that we're really following here. But overall, like there's nothing about season 2 that's blowing me away. I'm not like, oh my God, this is the most incredible WoW content I've ever seen. I can't wait for March or whatever to be into season 2. But I'm not. I don't know. I'm not disappointed. I'm not going, well, I'm not going to play this anymore, right? Like, it's cool. It seems like a natural place to go for the middle patch. We sort of have this tradition of the middle patch being this left turn, right? Like, you have kind of the initial expansion intro, sets all the pieces up on the table, kind of sets up the whole story. You get to kind of this big cliffhanger, and then the middle patch is it's a swerve where it goes in a different direction. It establishes some other part of the story, but there's a through line that by the end of it takes you back to, the next big chapter. So, on that level, this is pretty traditional. So I'm looking forward to it. I guess we'll see PTR like pretty soon because
I imagine we're going to get 11.0 at 7, and then the next week before they actually go away on vacation, they're going to drop the PTR for the next, for 11.1, and we're going to see that go up, and it's going to sit there over holidays with very little in it. And then when they get back from holidays, we'll see the first big patch of that rollout, I imagine, and we'll start seeing updates to that pretty quickly because they need to get enough stuff out on the PTR for people to test and do the raid testing because they like to do raid testing. So we'll see raid testing happen there for Liberation of Undermine. And then they'll have to get the systems tested, and then they have to get the thing live, like within basically when they come back from vacation, like 6 to 8 weeks is their window to do this, right? So I feel like we'll either see it happen right before Christmas, that the drop happens of 11.1 on PTR, or we'll see it right as they come back, like in the first week or two that they're back in January. It would go up very quickly. So just hopefully that initial build has the car in it, because I do want to like hop into PTR and see what the car feels like. that's the thing that I will like go check out PTR for at this point in my career as a player. I was like, oh, there's like a new system of like locomotion. Like, let me go see what this feels like. I want to check it out. I imagine speed wise, it will feel very much like the raft in Legion. Whereas like the raft was the way to get around
awesome.
speed-wise,
so good. I love that.
So I imagine it will probably feel a lot like that, where it's like 700% movement speed, and you're just like, I just fly everywhere on this thing, and it feels great, and I'm tearing up the place. So
right, and I mean, they made some references to like you can customize the stats on it, much like you would in a Mario Kart, for example, to switch out like top speed for acceleration, or you know, customize your handling and grip stats and stuff like that.
I really hope it happens where you drive into a garage and they have all those
Dude,
sort of going on, where it's like tires come off and go on and stuff happens, and that would be great. I'd be very
really
pleased.
Gobbling it up.
Yes,
I mean, this is their big chance. I know there are people who work on WoW that are big Goblin fans. You know, and Goblins haven't really had their moment really ever. Maybe when they were first introduced as playable in Cataclysm, and they've just been kind of there since then, so they're going to be front and center for season 2. And I think it's cool. Like, again, it's not where I live, it's not my corner of Azeroth really, but I know they're going to do stuff with it that's just going to make me literally laugh out loud while I'm playing. Like, I can already tell.
All right, in spring we have 11.1.5 with a new content, Nightfall, as well as Horrific Visions Revisited and the Children's Week update. So you might be going, what's Nightfall? Well, Nightfall is the name of the cult that's in Hallowfall, in case anyone's curious and hadn't looked it up or, paid attention to that storyline at all. So my assumption, based off of this and Horrific Visions happening in the same place, is the cult is up to no good, and the cult has created their own version of Horrific Visions that you have to go through and progress through, and most likely you are running through the main city of Hallowfall. That is where this takes place, because it's very Stormwind-esque, I'm just saying. Or it takes place in, some other city that's there, but I'm guessing it's probably just that one. And you're going through that city, and you're doing your own version of Horrific Visions. And unfortunately, there's children who are just running around because there's children there, and that's part of the Children's Week update. No, I think the Children's Week update might involve getting an orphan from the orphanage that exists inside of Hallowfall and doing stuff with that orphan. That would make sense to me too. So I feel like the 11.1.5 is going to be the Hallowfall update for everybody that has a bunch of Hallowfall stuff for people to check out.
Yeah, we're probably looking at like April for this, right? Would be my guess. Yeah, I think they did some great stuff with the children of Merildar and stuff in the Hallowfall zone. And the last time we saw a Children's Week update was in BFA, and that was incredible, man. I really love what they did with it. Something about the storylines with the kids and stuff, and wow, it always hits home with me. I mean, like, we're always off on these big earth-shattering adventures, you know. It's this very grandiose kind of thing, and you know, the human side of the world that we live in is sometimes it takes a back seat. So I like when they do that, especially through the kids that live there.
Yeah.
And I think the orphanage in Merildar is just an obvious kind of way to go. And maybe we'll see some other stuff too.
Yeah.
It would be really cool to see some updates in Belemeth, you know, the new Night Elf home. Like there's some opportunity to tell some new stories there.
Yep.
As far as horrific visions, man, it's a tough one for me. I liked Horrific Visions in BFA. You know, I did, but I did them so much.
They became a
man.
chore so quickly.
I did them so much. I mean, I was doing all 6 tanks and powering up the cloak every week and getting all the corruption resistance so I could get all the corruption gear. And I thought it was cool at the time. And then it kind of got old, but I still wanted to get the power, and that's what I do. I just I keep doing it, whether it's actually still fun or not, because the number goes up.
Yep. I'm with you.
So like my initial reaction is just seeing that on a timeline is like, ugh.
Yep.
I don't need to do any more horrific visions in my lifetime. But then a more rational part of my brain kicks in and goes, this is a .5 patch, and it's a middle patch of an expansion. So this is probably going to be something that's relevant for 2 to 4 months. It's going to occupy a much different space overall. I would assume.
I hope so.
In the game, because in BFA, you just had, if you were playing top end content, you had to do them. Got to do your horrific visions for the week. Got to get your corruption resistance. Go do it,
and hope that all of your corruption procs when you do really big pulls. Like it was just weird sweeping pulls to hope corruption stuff procs so that you could do it, because you had limited attempts to be able to do it, and you had some crazy freaking weak aura that took up half of your screen to track everything that you had to track to make sure you had all the certain things turned on and all the certain things killed that you had to have killed. I just really hope that this is a either simplified version or that has built-in UI elements, or that it needs to not feel like a chore you have to do every time, and B, something that is just overwhelmingly complex unless you are bringing in a lot of other UI elements to make it simpler for people. Because I know players who did not use weak auras who just hated this content period because it was just too hard, and it was just once you turned on the affixes and stuff for it, it just got so difficult so quickly. The masks, that's what they were. You just couldn't they just couldn't do them, and you're like, okay, well, if you can't do the high end ones, then you're just missing out. So they need to not have that be an aspect of it without building in UI elements that support players that way, because it's unfortunate that it was a feature that went live the way it did. Because I'm with you, it got old fast for me, and it was something I had to keep doing because it became a chore, because that's where I got power from. And hopefully they address that for it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying about where it needs to sit this time around, and I'm confident that it will, because it's a completely different landscape. It was in BFA, it was intrinsically tied to the corruption system, which was sort of the main gearing angle of that entire last season of the expansion. This is probably not going to be any of that. So hopefully it's just a way to add some cool solo or small group content to do. Maybe have some cosmetics or something tied to it. Could be cool. Yeah. Have it kind of occupy that place. We have plenty of avenues for gear and power in this expansion. We're going to have, we're going to be midpoint. This is midpoint of season 2. So we might still be on the way up in some cases in terms of dungeon and raid gearing and crafted and whatever. I don't think we need that other layer of also do this for extra power. Tell a story through it, have it be some kind of challenge you can show off and you get a cool cosmetic. That would be fine, especially if we have a new setting. I don't want to go back to Orgrimmar, dude. I don't want to go back to Stormwind. If it's the fact that they call it revisited gives me a little bit of pause, because it's if it was new horrific visions, then I'd be like, okay, but it revisited sounds like it might just be the old ones, but we're really spitballing here. If we're fighting Illyria and Stormwind again,
no.
I'm gonna have to hope that there's just nothing remotely that I want from doing it. It needs to be different content and occupy a different space in the overall loop of the game.
Yeah. All right. 11.1.7. This is bringing new story, quests, and content updates, as well as system updates. It's going to be our nice quality of life patch, as well as our second shot at Turbulent Timeways. That's going to happen towards the end of spring, early summer.
Very vague, and I'm sure they're like penciling stuff in here, and there's probably stuff they want to get in if it's done, and if not, then not. But the .7s are usually just like, okay, here's a little teaser to get you ready for the next big, season, and here's some quality of life stuff, and here's maybe like just a little more power you can squeak out to get your end of the season stuff done. The .7s are kind of fun because usually they just throw the kitchen sink at it. It's like it's not a big update, but they put all kinds of weird little stuff in there. It's the system updates, I think, that are always the kind of headline stuff from the .7. So they have it laid out really vague here, and I'm sure it's kind of in flux. It won't be any kind of huge, massive new thing to do, but it'll be it'll just kind of tidy up the end of season 2.
Along the same lines, we're getting a new zone in 11.2. We're getting new world events, new dungeon, new raid, new open world challenges, warband updates, a season rewards refresh, and Brewfest updates, which is what I mentioned before that I'm excited about. This is set for summer, which is interesting to me because Brewfest doesn't take place in summer. It takes place in fall. So it means that this is obviously set for summer when these changes will come in. And we know that 11.2 then rolls into the expansion reveal for Midnight. So we know that we're going to see basically 11.2 occupy the majority of the summer. 2.5 isn't coming out until autumn, but we are going to have some sort of big teaser / event, which will be the expansion reveal for Midnight, which kind of tees Midnight up for being something that's taken place in winter of either this year or early next, as far as based off of the content stuff that they're at least showing us at the moment. 11.2.5 is going to be new content and systems updates, as well as the 21st anniversary taking place. That'll be in autumn, obviously. So November-ish of next year, as well as the story and quests, new content and system updates happening for 11.2.7 as we trickle into winter of 2025. And then they just have a hanging rune on that banner as that banner transitions into being green, which is also, those are two large clues that I'm sure they're giving people. And there's been a lot of stuff where, like, I recognize this rune from this particular character, frame that they have this picture from, and a lot of stuff like that. Or the green means Legion, and we're going to have, this is where Sargeras comes back, or like this. A lot of things people are doing. It's all speculation. So I'm not going to dig too deep into it, but yeah, that's.
Well, they put it on there. They put it in the graphic to make people do that.
Exactly.
So it's fun. I like it. I mean, I don't know what season rewards refresh means for season 3, but that could be interesting. I feel like rewards refreshes are probably a good thing to sort of have, on the table.
Well, I think this ties into it. There's a bunch of interviews that happened with Ian over the past week or whatever, and one of them was talking about a refresh to Mythic Plus rewards, and so I'm wondering if that's what this references, because season refresh rewards, Mythic Plus rewards are a seasonal event. It kind of ties together there for me, so I'm guessing that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, probably. Like I feel like that Keystone Master reward is just a little stale, even though like the mech suit this season is awesome. It's like a mount for KSM, and like the cosmetic effect on your helm and shoulders for Keystone Hero it's okay, but I feel like there's maybe more a different angle they could go with that. But I mean, I'm thinking like if we get 11.1 sometime in February, right? We're probably looking at April for a .5. We're looking at June for a .7. So we're looking at August for .2, and then Brewfest is in September, so you're coming in you get the data for Brewfest in by August, and it's live. Season 3 is probably like August or maybe a September roll, and then
if there is a season 3,
there's a season 3. There is a season 3.
Oh, sorry. If there is a season 4, is what I was thinking.
Season. I think there will be no season. It seems like there is no season 4.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, probably what most players want. We're seeing the Midnight expansion reveal in the summer. is that a clue that there's just no BlizzCon 25?
Yeah.
Or what? I don't know.
Or is that a clue of that's where BlizzCon 25 is?
Yeah, maybe BlizzCon 25 is earlier in the year. Yeah, that could be too. It's like obviously they're real vague with 11.25 and 2.7 content and system update story and quote, like, okay, like that's what every patch has, so fine. And like that's to be expected, right? Like they're going to focus on kind of one lane at a time. We'll get to season 3 and the 11.2 content when we get there, and then we'll add stuff on to that. It's looking to me like if that's August, and then October for .5, that would have the 21st anniversary data in before that event starts, right? And then December for .2.7, and then into the new year, and then maybe like, the speculation is that the fell green on the banner means Legion Remix in that window, could be, and maybe, then you roll into maybe like a March-ish release for Midnight, like just make it way earlier than it has been. That's it's a big shift. It's a big shift in the overall timing of releasing stuff in the game, and I would prefer actually if Midnight was like a summer release and we had kind of a springtime season 4, and if that meant people wanted to dip out and play other stuff or go do other stuff or do whatever they needed to do, I would kind of prefer. I know people hate the season 4 concept. They don't want to redo the content. They don't want just a gear treadmill. I get that, and they got to listen to the majority of the voices and do what's right for most players. I feel like if we're really getting Midnight in early 26, that I think that has a potential to burn people out more so than like I'm going to dip out for a couple months. It's like I'm just not going to go through this again.
Yeah.
I didn't have any time to sit at the top of the ladder here and just ride it out and just either play like kind of maintenance-y, raid log, whatever, or not at all. And now I got to ramp it all the way back up. I don't know. We haven't been in that position before, so we'll see how that goes. It's a different kind of concept. For me personally, I don't like it. I'd rather have that extra 4 months to kind of breathe. But obviously I'm going to play the game, right? Like it's not going to affect whether or not I'm engaging with the content, but I do think there could be some, we're going to run into potentially some different challenges for the player base we haven't seen before.
Could be.
I don't know. I could be
you're
completely
spitballing. You're going out there.
Yeah, it could be that Midnight's going to be in May or July or something, and none of this is going to matter. But there is one other the thing with the rune.
Yeah, they talk about covering up an aspect of the map and all that kind of junk. Yeah.
The rune symbol might be related to like the tease at the very end of the WoW presentation as well. Like,
well, we know housing's not coming in till Midnight because it's a Midnight feature, so it's part of the expansion.
Yes, but Warbands is also a War Within feature, and that came in the pre-patch window for between Dragonflight and War Within.
Right. So you think pre-patch for that could be winter of
like that could be indicating that we're looking at winter 25-26 pre-patch. The housing feature comes in, and then Midnight like late winter, early spring. Yeah, it could be. I think you could glean that from looking at the roadmap they presented to us, and it's a lot of stuff, man. There's nothing on here that's jumping out to me as like I'm incredibly excited about this thing on the roadmap. It's going to be a lot of stuff to play, maybe too much stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's they delivered on the other roadmaps they presented before without deviating from the plan too much. The release schedule's been pretty consistent, and I mean I think overall like. The content they've delivered over the last 2-3 years has been really strong. So I have no reason not to look forward to any of this stuff, but there's nothing that I'm seeing and going, oh man, I can't wait for that one.
Could be. I will say that overall for this roadmap, I'm excited about it. I think that we're going to see a lot of content that is going to be a lot of fun and that they're going to do a really good job with. I in general am very hopeful at the moment. I am totally saying that blind, obviously, But it's one of those cases to me of they're on a good path, and if this is the roadmap and they have it planned out, then great. And hopefully they don't tie things to horrific visions or other systems that just make them chores. That's really the trap they can fall into with these things. And we've talked about it to death. So I'm good to move on and chat about some of the other stuff that's coming up, including some novellas. I was saying, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks ago to Jason, like, hey, I bet we're going to get an announcement about a book that's going to like help tie things together. Well, we get 4 novellas. These novellas are basically a dive into what took place with certain characters. So there's one about the Summit at Borealis. There's one about Echoes of the Past, which is, Jaina and Thrall. There's one about Bloodlines involving Thrall, and there's 2 more that involve stuff I don't want to spoil too much, but one of them is the Battle of Goshek Farm, which could be really cool to check out as well. So these are all very neat to check out. You can check them out on YouTube. There'll be links in the show notes if that's something you want to do. But yeah, these are to help tie in a bunch of story points for folks that may not, or may want to catch up on some of the history and backstory of what happened to characters between expansions, as well as where they were for missing periods of time that have not been explained inside of the game yet. So yeah, check them out.
Yeah, pretty cool that they got Metzen to narrate these. I was surprised that Metzen didn't appear anywhere in the presentation.
I agree.
Like there was
It's
B-roll of him,
it's
right?
deliberate.
From like I mean it was cool that they highlighted some people who work on WoW and other Warcraft games that maybe we haven't seen on camera as much.
Yep.
That was cool, but like you kind of figured that like Metzen would be front and center for this 30th anniversary celebration. Not that he was there from the very beginning, but I mean, geez, from Warcraft 2 on, he was a huge part of shaping all this stuff. But I didn't get a chance to listen to the novellas yet. Somebody told me they were listening to it and just loving it, so that's cool. You can also download a PDF of it and just read it if you want to.
Yep.
I think like the audio is only on YouTube though. That's the only place I found it so far, which is kind of annoying because I'd like to just download it and listen to it on on my phone or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't have like YouTube Premium where I can like listen to YouTube audio while I have the screen on something else or off or whatever.
Yeah.
So YouTube is not like a great audio delivery system. Sorry, Google, but whatever. That's where it is.
Google has other platforms for releasing audio on. So I'm just saying,
right.
like it wasn't their intention when they did that with YouTube. Overall.
So hopefully it'll pop up somewhere. I mean, when they did the other audio dramas and stuff, and they just released them as a podcast feed, like an RSS, that was so
great.
awesome. Man. They were so good.
Yeah. So easy.
But yeah, like I'm glad they did that. Having Metzen do it is just genius. So yeah, I got to check this out. It's just like, I don't have like a regular commute or anything. Like I don't have a time where I could really like sit down and listen to audio and pay attention to it. But I definitely want to listen to Chris read it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark and we haven't even touched the classic roadmap. So I want to get through and chat about some of the classic stuff, but I don't want to like do another hour on the classic stuff because good God. I have to edit this before I leave. So the WoW 20th Classic Anniversary is happening. This means that they are re-releasing all new fresh realms for WoW Classic. That's going to be arriving on November 21st, and players can essentially hop in and journey through the whole experience up to 60, the first raid, Molten Core, all that stuff, and then that's going to essentially roll out into the next expansions. And so they have part of the roadmap for this is essentially the layout of what the release is going to be for each of the different classic eras that you can play in. Inside this case, we are seeing the launch obviously in this autumn, and with the Molten Core raid continuing into winter, we're going to see phase 2 kick off. That's where they're getting the ruins of Dire Maul, as well as an honor and PvP ranking system, and the Warsong Gulch and Alterac Valley Battlegrounds will kick in. In spring, they're seeing phase 3. That's where Blackwing Layer kicks in, as well as Darkmoon Fair. Summer is Zul Garub, and another the Arathi Basin Battleground kicks in. Phase 5 happens in autumn. That is the AQ War raid that takes place there, and that whole event, as well as the Ruins of Anchorage. And then obviously just before winter, they're putting in the Shadows of Necropolis stuff, so that during winter and into spring of next year in that, so it'd be 2026, we'll see Burning Crusade Classic, and all your characters roll over into Burning Crusade Classic. So this is people who want to like get an entirely fresh start. this is smart. This is what I see with a lot of survival games that are out there. They have regular wipes to the servers to let everyone sort of start over and get an experience and go through it again. That seems to be what the classic community really likes, is when servers do this. So I think it's a smart thing to go, yep, 20th anniversary. We're just going to relaunch all this again. You can start from scratch. Everyone starts from scratch, whole new economies, fresh everything. Work your way through it, check it all out. And then, obviously this will progress all the way through their classic stuff that they have, because currently Classic Cataclysm's taking place, and we know Classic Myths is going to be launching in spring of 2025. So I imagine this will play all the way through all of that. And most likely they'll pick a stopping point, and then this will reset again. And that might be the 22nd anniversary might be when that happens. I don't know, but I imagine we'll see another refresh on this where players can start all over again and get back into it again and experience it all again if that's what they want to do. So that's what's happening there with the 20th anniversary classic.
I think it's cool. I didn't think they would do it. The real core classic audience has been pounding the drum for fresh realms for a while, and I'm like, well, they didn't do BC era realms and they didn't do Wrath era realms, and it seems unlikely to me that they would spin up entirely new fresh classic realms when classic is sitting there, plus you have SOD and you have hardcore and whatever else. But one thing that they're doing is each rule set, there's only one server. So there's one PvE server, there's one PvP server, and which is cool because you don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to end up on the wrong server or whatever. You pick the rule set you enjoy, and then that's it. Everybody in your region is on that server, and off you go. So I think that's a smart way to do it. Like, making them progression servers makes sense. I kind of don't love it, I guess, as a player, but
it's not for you, right? It's not what you engage in when it comes to this content. Like, the people who are looking forward to this are people who want those regular resets. They want to reset they want an accelerated experience and a reset every 9 months or whatever. Like, that's what they're looking for.
Right. And I think that's probably too much, but
I agree. I think with this many versions of Classic now out, all the way up through Cataclysm and obviously going to be moving into Pandaria, it's too much. But they would take a 4-month season of the original OG Classic that resets every 4 months. Like, there's players who want that. What I like about having the one server that you talked about is, yes, you're centralizing all the players who want that sort of content, but also they know their player base. They know how many people are interested in this. And so when they release this, they know that one server will cover that amount of people who are interested in that sort of game type of whatever this play style is going to be. So I think it's great. I think they're catering to the right crowd. It requires, in my opinion, probably minimal effort from them, because there's no development to take place. All this content they've already gone back and gone through again, since we're moving obviously farther into Classic with the current Classic stuff that's happening in Cataclysm. All this is done. All they have to do is spin up a server, start the process, and then have the regular patch releases be pushed live. It's minimal work, and it gives them 3 or 4 servers of players that are very happy with this style of content that they want to experience. So I'm happy for it. Glad it's there.
It's also a compromise for doing those era realms for each expansion, right? Like, you don't have to maintain these realms forever, but you can give people that little taste of BC or Wrath or whatever every couple years or whatever it ends up being. Also a cool thing is, like, MC and Oni aren't going to be out right away. There's like a month for you to just kind of level up and dungeon and do your thing. So I think that's cool to just kind of take some pressure away from the launch window. And it's really cool that, like, the servers are going up within about the same week as the actual anniversary date of WoW originally launching. Like, that's awesome. And then it's only about a year, right? So it's like vanilla WoW was like a little more than 2 years, and this Classic Anniversary Edition should get through basically all that content in like a year, give or take. So, if you're looking at a 1 year span for all that, and it's interesting. Like, I really didn't think that they would do it, and I think having it be a progression realm is kind of cool. Plus, the hardcore flavor of this is also progression up through Naxxramas. So that's a pretty cool wrinkle as well if you want to go that route. I'm gonna make a tune, whatever. I'll make a tune in the PvE realm. I don't know what I'm really gonna do, and I'm not probably gonna level the cap or anything, but how could I resist the pull of that, especially the 20th anniversary week, man? It's too strong. So it'll be fun to go in there and mess around. And plus, they're doing some little quality of life stuff. Like, you're gonna have the buff. What's it called?
The save
chrono beacon.
Beacon.
So, like, that's gonna be in there from the jump. They're doing, like, There's a revamped group finder, so you can use in-game tools to actually find people to play with. They're doing the faction balancing that we've seen in SOD, so that like if you want to play in the PvE realm, they're going to keep the population balanced, and if there's too many Horde players, you won't be able to make a new Horde tune until it balances out. So that's actually gone pretty well in SOD, and they've gotten some good feedback on that. So that'll be cool to see it on maybe a larger scale, at least at launch. Like it's not exactly vanilla WoW, but it's taken some of the stuff they learned from the lessons they learned from Classic and from Season of Mastery and all that stuff, and kind of making like a streamlined, like slightly modernized version of Classic WoW for this particular project. So yeah, it sounds really cool. So, I'm glad they're doing it. It's something for everybody at this point, really, with how they're rolling this game out.
Yeah, it's all different versions of it. Season of Discovery is getting a Phase 5, 6, and 7. So we are seeing, obviously, Phase 5 happening shortly. And then actually, we're currently in Phase 5, I believe, with Zul'Gurub Raid and Blackwing Lair Raid. Phase 6 is coming out in winter, so we're right around the corner from that, or it's starting soon. I'm not up to date with my timelines.
I think like PTR was like supposed to go up this week for that and didn't, or like it's imminent, you know, that they're going to be testing it. So it's going to be pretty soon. Yeah,
and then Phase 7 is going to be the Naxxramas Raid and the new end game content that they are going to be releasing. So folks can actually check out some special new stuff that they're throwing into that. And then they have like a blank slate, which I think probably means they're going to take 2 to 3 months to sort of sit and look at what this content was and how it worked, and whether or not they want to do a Phase 8, or how they want to do maybe a reset, or how they want to do whatever it is they're going to do with Season of Discovery. That's my guess for what they're using that blank space. But overall, I mean, it's been an experiment, and it's something that they have definitely learned from over the period of time. And it's been neat to see them, as you said, take things from Season of Discovery and go, oh, this would be good in Classic. Let's bring that buff saver into Classic so people can get that. And let's move this here. And I think that's overall been neat, as well as take some of the stuff from Season of Discovery and go, hey, here's Plunderstorm. And we're going to basically incorporate stuff from that into Plunderstorm. And we're going to incorporate stuff from, like, they're really learning from this different version of World of Warcraft that they've created. So I think that's good to see. And
cool to have like a sandbox to just try something different, you know, with that kind of backbone of that like rock solid old content. You know, I mean, that was a great game when it came out, so you can do little variations on it. I did want to include, there was a post from Randy about the future of SOD, because it does say, like, it has that kind of ellipsis at the end, right? New endgame content dot. But Randy did say that, like, following the direct, you know, many players want to know more about the future of Season Discovery and your characters. They have no plans to delete Season Discovery characters or to shut down the realms. They plan to continue supporting them, and they're hard at work on everything else that's coming soon TM. So I think there's probably stuff that, like, maybe it's not locked in, or they're just not ready to show it off. And I would imagine they can probably iterate on SOD pretty quickly. So I was a little bit like, man, I guess they're just kind of winding down SOD, when I was watching the direct, but it seems like that's not the plan. They just they're not ready to get into what happens after Naxx quite yet. We did see a little tease of some new Scarlet Monastery content and some Deadwind Pass content. That looks really cool. I just fell off the SOD train so hard. I don't know if I can ever get back on it, but I have enjoyed what they've been doing over there. And I think the new endgame content is the stuff that could really be the juice for the future of those servers. You know, like, once we get through all the traditional vanilla WoW endgame, you know, like, maybe we got some other interesting stuff after Naxx. Like, that could be really cool.
I think it could be cool for Season Discovery players who are into it. I'm not sure if they'll ever draw back the type of player base they had up front. But we'll see what happens.
Well, no, they won't, but I don't think they would even try. I don't think that's the goal, right? It's like you get that initial launch hype, and then you're only going in one direction ever after that.
My assumption is they don't know if they're going to go into Burning Crusade with this or not, and they don't know what to call that next phase, whether that would be Burning Crusade, you know, Classic Season of Discovery Phase 1, or whether it's going to be Phase 8, or what they choose to do with it. So I imagine that's probably the big hang up, and we'll see what happens with it. All right. Cataclysm Classic is currently up and running and live, and Firelands Raid is live, and people are in there and they're checking it out. They will see an Hour of Twilight with a Dragon Soul Raid and Caverns of Time dungeons and Elemental Rune dungeons happening in winter. And then we will have summer/spring Mists of Pandaria stuff kick off with the pre-patch and Theramore's Fall and all that stuff for Pandaria. and that'll launch in autumn. So there'll be a Mists of Pandaria Classic, which I know some people are very excited about. I was very excited about the concept of Mists of Pandaria Classic. I don't know where my life's going to be at that point in 2025, so I can't say I'm into this, I'm doing this, this is crazy. My brain just goes, I really like the farm, I'd like to do the farm again. I really like the Thunder Vault and having to go into the vault and break into that was really fun. I'd like to do that. Like, there's some things I'd like to do again. I don't know if I have the patience to put the effort into actually leveling a character and doing these things, but it's in my mind. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, Miss Classic is so weird because for that core Classic audience, like, Miss is such a hard breaking point for so many people, right? That meme of like, or there's still pandas in retail, like that whole thing that somehow persists to this day. But I also think that I have now encountered, now that we've had Classic as a concept for 5 years and it's been expanded upon, like, I have now encountered an entirely separate audience, which is the people who, they're not like your hardcore, like, Classic only players, right? They are WoW players who missed expansions, or, for one reason or another. Maybe they skipped them, maybe they left and came back, or maybe they were just too young and they didn't play the game back then, and now these expansions are coming back around and they want to see what they're all about because they want to play them in context or whatever. And I think that's really who these expansion releases are serving at this point. The only Classic players are never going to change or go away. They are always going to want that version of the game, and they are being served, I think, pretty well by the Classic team. So yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it at this point, is like, Miss is not for those people, right? Like, obviously, Miss is a thing that a lot of those people can't brook, and that's why they stopped playing retail WoW in the first place. But there is definitely there is some kind of audience just to relive the expansions, or to see, how, if you missed them, you revisit them and see how they played out. Miss is one of my favorites, probably top 4 for me at this point, but like, I really have no interest in going back and playing in that environment, especially after we just had Remix last summer and we kind of, zoomed through all the content again. I do wonder if they'll change it up a bit and kind of take some of the pressure off that daily quest rotation in the early parts of the game and everything, in the 5.0s and the 5.1 and 2 of like, okay, do your 40 minutes of dailies every day to unlock more dailies, and then you get your rep, and then you can spend your currency to buy your rewards eventually. Right. That was a big pain point for people, so I wonder if they'll switch that up. But it's cool. The trailer they put together for it was awesome, man. I loved what they did with that. So it's cool. And hey, it's going to be a really truncated Dragon Soul cycle, maybe, which would have been real nice back in 2011, 2012.
Fair. Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, man. Overall, though, I think Warcraft Direct was a successful presentation. It's not any kind of consolation for missing a BlizzCon. I think BlizzCon is unique and special in its own way on a lot of levels. I would be fine with further Warcraft Direct style releases. I think it's weird they chose to call it Direct, because that's very Nintendo of them to choose to do, but it was what they chose to go with, so it's what they went with. And I don't know, I'm hopeful that next year we get a BlizzCon and we can see some of these announcements roll out there, even if it's a summer type event or it's a more limited type event to get into. I don't know, but I would be fine with them doing something that involves community on a larger scale, and not, hey, we're going to do a bunch of announcements and then we're going to grab 3 or 4 large publishers and make them the people who we talk to and not anyone else. And you're like, okay, that's, crappy for all of us community folk. Just saying, those things.
Yeah, that old PC gamer, ubiquitous PC gamer piece or whatever. Yeah. I thought, I thought overall the presentation came off really well. I thought the production value was really high, and there's a ton of stuff that I want to play. And that I have been playing as a result of it. Hopping right back into War 3 2.0 finally, once that came down, and the Rumble event that kicked off. Like, there's ongoing stuff for the anniversary, plus they started the Sylvanas centric event in conjunction with the Direct. And obviously, it's too much WoW to play, dude. Like, all the stuff that we already have, plus all the stuff that's coming. Like, what you get for your World of Warcraft subscription, it come like mid 2025 is going to be just more ridiculous than it's ever been. right? Like there's just so much stuff to do
Yeah.
in the live retail game, and there's so many other ways to play and other things to do that your subscription grants you access to, and that's really cool. And I think that there's a big focus on preserving the legacy of the game. That's obvious
Yeah.
when you see like how they're publishing it and what they're saying about it. And so like that simultaneous kind of momentum of pushing the game forward, doing cool stuff, doing stuff that players have wanted for a really long time, like war bands and like the player housing teas, which like we don't even really need to get into, but like that's a thing people have been asking for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we're getting it in 2025, you know? These are things that are important to players, and also the history of the game is important to players, and the legacy that this game has left behind for the last 20 years is important to players, and it's obviously important to the company as well. So I think that's really just it's vindicating, to hear it from the source, and to know that like, okay, when I subscribe to this game, like they take that seriously. They're going to take care of me as a customer and as a player. I feel like the Direct was really more classic centric than anything, even though we got the huge roadmap for War Within. It's like, that's all stuff we kind of expected. Classic is just like kicking into a different gear with all the stuff that's happening this year. So,
Yeah.
And I think that's also just a good thing of the overall ecosystem, right? There's no new expansion in 25. It's like that off year. So that means like Classic gets a little bit more bandwidth, more breathing room, and it might be more appealing to players. Next year it'll be the big expansion release, and it'll probably go in the other direction. But it's a really cool sort of symbiotic relationship, that you have inside that client.
I don't know. You're making an assumption we don't somehow see Midnight in December of next year, which is
I don't think we're going to.
It's possible.
It's possible, but
right.
I think we're going to see it no earlier than like March of 26. But right. We'll see what they end up doing. Either way, it's it's kind of the same idea, even if it makes it right at the end of the calendar.
True. All right. So with that, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. And today I'm giving a special shout out to Alianas, Arajian, Bradley, Dustin, James, Kapawi, Max, Shorel, and Rager. Thank you so much for what you give, as well as all of our patrons, past and present. You help keep our archives online, our podcast posted, and episodes rolling. Sort of like today, where we're like, hey, I need to find a time to record before I get on a plane so I can actually edit the episode and get it out the door so you guys have content, because so much happened and we have to talk about it before I leave. I can't just put it off for a week. It's not one of those things. We got to do an episode. Here it is. And yeah, it happens because of you guys. So you can find our Patreon over at patreon.com/thestartingzone, or you can go to thestartingzone.com and click on Patreon. Either way, that will get you over there. No new patrons this week, but yes, thank you to all of our patrons who support the show. We appreciate you, both past and present.
Absolutely. Thank you, patrons, for everything you've contributed to the show over the years. Helps keep us going. It helps keep the show on track, helps keep the archives online, and everything else related to you being able to listen to the show. And also, it kind of helps keep things on track when we need to squeeze in a 2+ hour record on an off night. These things happen, and having the support and to be able to do that with the show means a lot. So thanks.
Yeah, it is why these episodes happen. All right. Hey folks, if you've enjoyed this episode, another great way to help out the show is head on over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, leave us those 5-star reviews. They really help with the show, and we love reading them here live on the show. This one comes in from Steve from Great Britain, entitled Great Find. Found this podcast 6 weeks ago, and I can't fault the info, knowledge, and the quality of this podcast. Spencer and Jason keep you intrigued from the start to finish, and this is becoming my morning and afternoon ritual on school runs. And so a whole show lasts a week or so for me. Wow, a whole week out of an episode. That's great for you. This is like 2 weeks worth then, right? This is like, you got overtime. Hopefully there's like a reading week or a day off or something where you can listen to more of it. Continues on saying, don't understand all the terminology, but hey, who cares? It makes me want to look it up and learn more. From the UK, thank you, and keep up the great work, Steve. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for writing in. Sorry if we're lingoing you a bit. We tend to go back and try and correct like LOS, meaning line of sight, or things like that. But it is something that sometimes gets away from us, and we use it and we don't notice it. And we'll try to be better about that. And it's always something I try to be cognizant of. But when you're talking for 2.5 hours, sometimes things just get in there, you know, it just happens. So.
And we also have this lexicon of like 20 years of talking about the game. It does have its own kind of language around it. Hey, you know, if there's ever anything that we're talking about on the show that you don't know what we mean by certain things, hop into Discord and ask us. And
it's a great way to do it.
Yep, you know,
absolutely.
That's the thing. But yeah, thanks, Steve, for writing in. Great to hear from you. Glad you're liking the show. Welcome aboard. I mean, it's awesome to hear from. I mean, we've been doing, just you and I have been doing the show for 8 years now, and the show's been around for 15 plus. And so hearing somebody just coming across it within the last couple months that's really cool to think about. So thanks for checking us out, and glad you dig it. Thanks for writing in.
Yeah. All right. With that, if you want to leave your own little review, head on over to your iTunes, your Apple podcast. But otherwise, we're going to wrap up episode 658 of The Starting Zone. You can check out show notes for this episode over at thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast, as well as links to things like our Patreon and whatnot. If you want to contact the show, you can reach out to us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or on Twitter at thestartingzone, or there's a Blue Sky now for the Starting Zone. It's there, as well as Discord server, startingzone.com/Discord. We'll get you in there. And as Jason said, we're happy to answer questions. We have lots of very knowledgeable, helpful people within the community, so they are always up for answering questions and what's going on with things and all that kind of jazz. And yeah, with that, if you want to get yourself some stickers or a shirt or something like that, you can go over to tpublic.com/stores/the Starting Zone. Often there's sales happening. I think there's like $16 or $14 t-shirts or something happening right now. So there's often sales happening over there if you want to pick up some swag. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald, or also over on Blue Sky. The username is just JLucas over there. So come say hi. The video channels are over at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. I haven't really been streaming the last couple of weeks, just been kind of low energy. It's just stuff's been really busy and I've been not feeling my best. So I don't know. I just haven't turned the stream on, but typically streams are Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday for raid nights, 7:30 Eastern. Check out the channels. I mean, you get notifications and stuff when I do go live, and there is drops going on right now. So I got to get going and get streaming so people can get their Wolves and their Panthers and stuff.
Yeah. Trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, over on Blue Sky at SpencerHD, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, or on youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.